going to get started with a little introduction. Welcome to the Half Hollow Hills PTA Council's annual Meet the Candidates event, and thank you all for coming and choosing to spend your evening here tonight. My name is June Margolin, and I'm the president of Huntington Matters, a community organization and neighborhood watch serving residents of the town of Huntington since 2014. This Meet the Candidates event has been my favorite part of election season for the past 10 years. I am truly honored to be your moderator tonight. I especially love this event because of the PTA Student Legislative Committee students helping collect your questions and also submitting their own. Their involvement reminds us that civic engagement starts early, and I can't wait to hear the thoughtful questions that they have. What makes this event unique in our town is that it's the only one that allows candidate rebuttals, creating a real dialogue between the candidates that we don't usually see. I'd like to thank all of our candidates, these are our neighbors, for stepping forward to serve. It's a tremendous commitment that they take on out of genuine care for our community. I also want to thank their families for the support and sacrifices that make their public service possible, giving all of us a strong range of choices at the polls. Thank you. We'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the elected officials in the room. Legislator Stephanie Bontempi is joining us today. Thank you so much. Anybody else? They didn't, Deputy Supervisor McCarron in the back. Thank you. My vision's not so great. I'm pretty much done beyond there. So if anyone else is here, please come whisper it to me. All right, so I have a confession. For most of my adult life, I was completely apathetic about local politics until 2014, when a violent crime occurred just steps from my son's bus stop. That day changed everything for me and a group of other residents, leading to the creation of Huntington Matters and our social media neighborhood watch with the Suffolk County Police Department 2nd Precinct. We realized very quickly just how transformative community advocacy can be when neighbors and local officials collaborate. We have proof. Together, as a community, we transformed the town of Huntington from having the second highest crime rate in Suffolk County, a record the 2nd Precinct held for decades, to the second lowest in just 2 years. And we've maintained that for 9 years straight to this day. The only other lower one is mostly cows. In 2016, Huntington Station saw 0 murders, I know it's shocking, for the first time in 11 years. And we had none for another 3. So this is proof that when everyday neighbors get involved, real change happens in your community. There's a saying, you get what you don't vote for. My own apathy and that of many others once contributed to our town's challenges. In 2014, only 19% of Huntington's registered voters participated in local elections. Through Huntington Matters, we've worked to change that by helping neighbors learn about their choices at the polls so they can vote with confidence, including hosting live video candidate interviews for the past 10 years every year. Within just a few election cycles, if you're old enough to remember, our town's leadership began to reflect our neighbors' growing engagement. By 2023, 35% of our neighbors came out to vote in the non-presidential election. That's an 85% increase in voter participation from a decade earlier. The most important vote is your own. So thank you for spending your time with us tonight. I encourage you to listen with open minds, take notes, and leave here informed and inspired to vote in person on Tuesday, November 4th at your regular polling place, or early voting is currently happening until November 2nd at 3 locations in our town: Green Lawn Fire Department, Dix Hills Fire Department Headquarters, and the Huntington Public Library Station branch in Huntington Station. Thank you all. We're going to get started. Okay, we have some rules, house rules, nothing huge. No video or audio recording, please. Photography is allowed. This event is being video recorded and will be posted tomorrow on Huntington Matters YouTube channel and on Huntington Matters social media platforms. To maintain a comfortable environment for all candidates, audience video and audio recording are not permitted except by designated event staff. Still photographs are fine. Please refrain from applause, cheering, booing, or interruptions during candidate responses. Please hold all applause to the end of each section. This helps ensure that all candidates have equal time to be heard and we can stay on schedule. The time limits. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for introductions, 3 minutes per question, and, unique only to this event, 2 minutes for rebuttals. We have how many timekeepers? 3. There's suddenly more people here. 3 timekeepers in the front row that will be holding up signs to keep everybody on track, and I will enforce these time limits fairly for everyone. The questions. Audience members, please submit your questions in writing on the provided index cards. Raise your hand, and volunteers from the Student Legislative Committee will collect your questions throughout the evening at any point. Or if you need a card, raise your hand if you need a card, or 2 or 3 or 5. Questions are welcomed. Speaking of which, where's my question team? You have? Okay, good, she's got it, okay. All right, great. And students also submitted, I'm super excited about that. All right, great. So questions will be reviewed and may be consolidated to avoid duplicates and maintain relevance and civility. Please silence your cell phones at this time and minimize movement in and out of the auditorium during candidate remarks. Emergency exits are there, and here. And this is a nonpartisan reminder. All candidates were invited to participate in this event. If you don't see a candidate participating, it's because they chose not to or were unable to be contacted. This event is strictly nonpartisan and educational, designed to help voters make informed decisions. So due to time constraints tonight, we're going to start actually with our Suffolk County legislators. So if our team of legislators wouldn't mind coming up. Tom Donnelly has to leave and go to another event. While they make their way up here, I'm going to let you know what the Suffolk County Legislature does. The Suffolk County Legislature is the policy-making branch of county government, essentially the Congress for Suffolk County. Legislators create local laws, set policies, and oversee county services that affect daily life, from public safety and health to housing, transportation, and the environment. They manage budget and finance, adopting the county's budget, setting fees, levying taxes, and approving funds for major projects and Suffolk County Community College. Legislators also provide oversight of departments like the police, sheriff, and health services to ensure accountability and transparency. As constituent advocates, they help residents navigate services, secure funding for community projects, and address local concerns. They also influence county zoning, land use, and environmental protection policies through specialized committees. In short, your county legislator is your community's voice in county government, shaping the laws, budgets, and programs that directly impact life in Suffolk County. So there are multiple districts for county legislator in the town of Huntington. If you don't know your district, you can find out at vote411.org, and you can look it up by address. So tonight, Legislator Donnelly has to leave very quickly, so we're gonna have him come up and say a few words. He's running somewhat unopposed, if you don't mind. And thank you so much, Legislator Tom Donnelly, and he is District 17.
Thank you, June. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Donnelly. I represent Suffolk County District 17 here in Half Hollow Hills. The school itself, where we are right now, is part of District 17. So I represent the west side of Deer Park Avenue in Half Hollow Hills, with the exception of the Greens, the area around Road Swamp Road, as well as Wheatley Heights, which is represented by LD 15. So I've been a local elected official for 26 years. I've served 10 years as a fire commissioner in Deer Park, 2 terms on the Babylon Town Board as a councilman, and 4 terms as your county legislator here in Suffolk County. I'm very proud of my record. Most folks in the room know me as a common sense local elected official, working with all levels of government to do the people's business. Proud of some efforts that we've made, particularly in social services, police staffing, as well as road infrastructure here in the town of Huntington. As June said, it's a relatively quiet cycle in District 17, but you know, I ask you once again to entrust me with your most precious possession, and that is your vote. I'm very, very accessible. My office is literally right down the road, right off of Deer Park Avenue. Feel free to stop in. I have a terrific staff. We do notaries. We do all kinds of constituent services here in Half Hollow Hills. And I'm proud of the relationship that I have here with the school district as well. I see so many of the young people, and they do the legislative breakfast every year. And it's so, for me, it's thrilling to talk to them about local government, because sometimes we have this bad persona of politics and government, when in fact government does work for the people. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And Legislator Donnelly is the Democratic and Conservative candidate for District 17. If you need to slip out, Legislator Donnelly, we totally respect that. All right, so next we're going to, now you guys are first, so can everyone see, are you comfortable if they stay seated and address you, or do you want them to come up to the podium? In the back. How are you feeling? Okay, so that's the answer. So Legislator Richberg, why don't you come up and introduce yourself for 2 minutes, and if you could please also let us know why you chose to run.
Guess my time was already up. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Richberg. I'm a county legislator representing the 15th Legislative District. So that represents the parts of Melville down to Amityville Village, which includes East Farmingdale, Copeg, North Babylon, West Babylon, Wheatley Heights, and a little bit of East Farmingdale as well. So I ran, originally I got elected about a week before COVID, before the COVID shutdown. And so when I was originally elected, there's no rule book. And so working with colleagues like Tom Donnelly and our county executive at the time and across the aisle, I've helped to bring police reform, I've helped to bring more funding for police, I've helped to put economic development back in our community, I helped to work to build stronger relationships. I continued our youth caucus, which we've been going on for about 15 years. So as kids between 6th to 12th grade are in our office on Tuesday nights, not this week, but one Tuesday a month. And we have a mentorship program with them. We've had an open internship program as well. But more importantly, I'm here to be your advocate. I'm not here for anybody else's goal, but to listen and figure out how I can help you. What's more important is that we have a friend and an ear in government. A lot of times people see what's going on a national stage and they want to get drawn into that partisan politics. And the reality is, if we don't learn how to work together, we won't get things done. And so if that means I'm calling the supervisor to give him an idea or back and forth, or if I have to talk to a council person or someone from another part of the town or another part of the county, that's my responsibility. Yet, nobody cares about the letter at the end of the name. What they care about is the work that you're getting done for them and is their voice being represented. And so I'm running for re-election to be your voice. I'm running for re-election because I know we need to keep moving Suffolk County forward. And I'm also running to make sure that we keep Suffolk County affordable and a great place to live, work, and play. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chad Lupinacci, would you like to come give your opening statement? Thank you, and why you decided to run.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's certainly great to be here. I'm Chad Lupinacci, the candidate for the 16th Legislative District. And first of all, I just want to thank the Half Hollow Hills School District and the PTA and all of the Student Legislative Committee that's here today. It's always great to visit Half Hollow Hills School District. Over the years, I've been at the legislative breakfast also with the students, and also had many interns throughout the years through their senior experience program. We've always had great interns from Half Hollow Hills School District. And I still keep in touch with them. Many of them went on to work now on Capitol Hill, where I just ran into one a few weeks ago that's in law school now. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I served 3 terms on the South Huntington School Board, where we were able to increase the graduation rate to 99% and make sure that every student got the best education possible. After that, I represented this area also, most of the area in the New York State Assembly. I served 3 terms there, where we passed legislation to fight the opioid epidemic and, of course, fight crime. We increased funding to our schools and colleges. And when there was a tragedy, if you remember, at Legal Seafoods at Waldman Shops, where carbon monoxide killed the manager and also injured a lot of first responders, we passed legislation in a bipartisan manner to make sure that all commercial establishments had to have carbon monoxide detectors. I was elected town supervisor in 2017, where we established term limits for all town officials. We secured funding for Huntington Station sewers. You'll see that construction going on New York Avenue and such to help increase economic development to the area. We also maintained a AAA bond rating while staying under the tax cap for 4 years. We upgraded our parks, including spray parks, and we kept qualified people in jobs. I always bucked the party and said, we need to make sure we have the best qualified people. It doesn't matter of their registration. It matters that they can do the job. Why am I running for the Suffolk County Legislature? Because I want to bring that vast government experience to help make our county the best out of all 62 counties in New York State. We want to make sure that police force has the proper resources and the district attorney. We continue to expand our sewers and infrastructure, and we bring as many tourists as we can to this beautiful county of ours, and including economic development, job creation, and of course protecting our community college. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Legislator Rebecca Sanin, District 16, where I live, and I don't remember.
I have to bring the mic down. Happy evening, everybody, and happy almost election day. It is amazing to be in a room filled with incredible students every time I'm in this school district, which is really all the time. I am so inspired by the young people here. I started my career in early education. I was a fellow at the National Center for Children and Families. I've worked with PTAs since the early 2000s to really make sure we're doing everything we can for our kids. And being in a school district always makes me feel like I'm at home. I was a PTA vice president and a PTA president as well, and I'm so grateful for the work that the PTA does all across Suffolk County and our state. Half Hollow Hills is one of the greatest school districts in the state and in the country, and we have a lot to celebrate here and to lift up our young people. I love working with your students. I have so many of you young people in my offices as interns. I'm talking to parents tonight who I've mentored their students, I've worked with their students. I'm so proud of the work we do together. I come to your district all the time to celebrate the incredible achievements and accomplishments of your athletes and your students. But what I want to tell you tonight is that education is so important to me personally, and it's something that I work really hard to support in our districts. I've met with your former superintendent, your new superintendent. I've brought resources to your district for mental health. I've actually been working with the Half Hollow School District since 2018 when I led the 2020 census effort for the region and made sure we harnessed dollars for programs like special education for the next 10 years. I also ran a mental health symposium of numerous superintendents, including your then superintendent, to make sure we were bringing resources to our schools post-COVID-19 when so many of our kids were struggling. But what I will tell you before my time is up is listen. I love our schools. I love your school district. You know me because I'm always here for you, and you know I always will be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so we have these questions. I kind of feel like maybe for time's sake, you guys should stand up over here near the podium if you don't mind. Sorry, you candidates, not guys, candidates. It's my 60s showing. Okay, we'll do it this way. All right, so I'm going to give you actually 2 cards. One is an adult submission and one is a student submission. And I'm going to combine them into one opportunity at the microphone. All right, you ready? All right, what are the 3 most important skills you have that will most assist you if elected? Part 1. Part 2, in today, should I read the name? Serena? Awesome question. In today's world, certain schools on Long Island experience funding disparities, which means a lack of access to some quality education, teachers, and resources. What can be or is being done regarding this to ensure fairness for all? Legislator Sanin.
All right, so the 3 qualities that make me a fantastic leader and that will help me continue to get things done for our district are empathy. I don't believe you can represent people if you can't stand in their sacred shoes and try to know what they are facing and solve their challenges. The second one is passion. If you can't tell from my voice, I love what I do. This isn't what I do, it's who I am. And so passion really matters when you're a leader and when you're an elected official. And the third is advocacy. Try to tell me no. Good luck. So I love to fight for our people, and I love to get things done. And so those are the 3 skills that I'm very proud of. Look, I've been working on equity issues for our school districts really since the beginning of my career. I used to be a nonprofit leader. I used to be the CEO of a major nonprofit that partnered with our school districts. I work very closely with the NASA Suffolk School Board Association. I work very closely with the immediate past president of the New York State Superintendents Association. This is something that we are facing all the time. It is why I fought really hard for the state to pass school meals for all, so no child would go hungry and face that trauma when they are in school trying to learn. Hunger is not just about where your next meal is going to come from. It really becomes a traumatic issue for families. So I fought very hard for equity there, and I'm very happy that we now know that children in all of our districts have access to safe and healthy meals. When it comes to funding for our school districts, one of the challenges that we have is that schools are funded by school taxes. And so when we look at our commercial base and our tax base, it's different in different communities. So economic growth, doing things like investing in sewer infrastructure, so we can have a strong commercial tax base in our districts, is really important to investing in our schools. We also need to bring additional resources, and that's one of the places that I'm particularly skilled because I used to be a CEO in the nonprofit sector. I've worked with philanthropy all over the state and all over the country, national organizations, and it's why I've been able to bring things like mental health first aid training to our school districts. It's why I've been able to bring resources to our districts that matter. But not only is that the case, it's also important to just build programs locally. So one of the things I'm really proud of achieving in my first term is to develop the first ever pre-apprenticeship program in all of Suffolk County in one of the districts in my region. And what that means is young people will have access to good union jobs. Those who are not going to go to college can get good paying jobs and be part of the union family. And that's something that's really important. We want our kids to graduate not just with a degree, but with a degree plus, with a pathway forward. And that's something that requires continued work. What I will say lastly, with my last 30 seconds, is one of my favorite things to do, when we look at equity, it is a vital thing to do, is to build multi-stakeholder coalitions. Because problems don't get solved in education through only an education lens, right? We have to bring all the leaders, the nonprofit sector, the school district sector, the government sector, the mental health sector, all together to work on solving the challenges we faced. I've built coalitions to address so many of the challenges we faced on Long Island, and we've had a lot of successes, and I'm very proud of that and can't wait to continue doing it for you.
Chad Lupinacci.
So going back to the 3 qualities that are most important, I think, diligence, definitely. Being determined, and also working with others, because a lot of times you have to check your ego at the door when working with other legislators, when working in a bipartisan fashion, and many of the accomplishments I've had has been working in a bipartisan way, whether it was making sure that we had sewer infrastructure in Huntington Station, or getting term limits passed, or settling the LIPA case in the town of Huntington, which almost devastated the tax base here because it would have cost the residents of the town of Huntington $850 million. We were able to put together a bipartisan solution to that situation that brought Democrats and Republicans together to get the settlement that helped not allowing the residents of the town of Huntington being bankrupt during that time, which I think is very important. In terms of school funding, it's something that's a yearly battle, and having served in the state assembly, we worked on many programs to make sure that we increase funding to not only our local school districts, but also to our colleges. And I know when I served in the state assembly, we were in constant contact with the superintendent, with the assistant superintendent for business. We had meetings with various stakeholders and such. And I remember the students coming up and different faculty and staff visiting me in my Albany office, advocating for more resources to the school district. And we were successful during those years to make sure that taxes didn't have to increase, that we could actually bring more funding to the school districts, because a lot of it's dependent on state aid. And that was something that, if elected to the Suffolk County Legislature, I will help advocate at the state level to make sure we continue to bring funding to all of our school districts in the area, because it's very important. Not only do we have to speak about K through 12 education, but also access to college and higher education is very important too. Suffolk Community College is very interesting because it's part of the SUNY program, but also has county oversight. So we want to make sure that we increase our funding to our community college. It gives everyone a fair shake at getting jobs and achieving the American dream. Something that I served on when I was in the State Assembly was the Higher Education Committee, which we had oversight of the private colleges, the SUNY, the CUNY schools, and all the professional licenses. And during that time, we were able to increase our tuition assistance program to make sure that people can go on to college if they couldn't afford college. And we also passed the Excelsior Scholarship, that if you're making under a combined income of under $200,000, you can go to any of the SUNY schools for free, as long as you stay in New York State after you graduate from the school for 4 years. So those are the things you have to make sure that people have, is that the resources necessary to achieve. My background is not only serving in elected positions, also an attorney, but also a teacher. And I very much believe in having active internship programs in all the government offices that I served in, whether it was Albany or the town of Huntington. And I am in contact with many students on a daily basis. I teach at Farmingdale State College. The last time I was in the classroom was 3 hours ago, and it gives me a great purpose and also a sense of pride, because you always know what's on the mind of people that are 18, and some of my students are as old as 70. But it's a great way to always be in constant communication with people and know exactly what the needs are of the society. Thank you.
I'm glad I have a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
So I'll first start with the fact that the 3 skills I would bring, or I'm bringing, is listening, empathy, but dedication, right? And so as a person who created a civic engagement program, did their master's in youth engagement, worked to engage young people, whether creating the first page program, which is an immersive internship program for the legislature, making sure we have innovative programs at Suffolk Community College, like expanding our automotive tech programs. Those are things that you take dedication, visioning, and listening for. Because those are the things that we hear our parents talk about, those are the things we hear our young people talking about. How can I stay here? And so one of the things that we do in our office is we invite people to come in all the time. We have a rotating internship program, we have our SWEP program, we have our young employees program, where we have folks from Department of Labor who come in who are high school students or older, and coming in and learning about how government works. And what's great about that program is we're able to listen and find out what really is going on, 1, in the streets and in their homes. 2, when you talk about school funding, the system is broken, right? The funding streams are not equal no matter where you live. And no matter where you are, everybody feels like they're shortchanged. And we all can agree with that, right? Can we all agree with that? Yeah. You guys can respond, it's okay. You aren't not gonna get in trouble. But what's important is that we all need to be a team player and say, how can we help everyone else? And my colleague Rebecca Sanin is right. We need collaborative approaches. We need to make sure we're bringing young people to the table. We need to bring other people to the table as well. Nonprofits, other investors, to engage our education system. But we can't do that unless we know what the true systems are we're missing. So one of the things we're seeing is that we need more infrastructure in our information technology systems. We need more work on our computer and other liaison systems to ensure that we have students who can learn how to get into those fields. When we talk about our automotive systems, we're seeing that we have employers saying we have 4,000 employees they're needing to work in the automotive field. Everybody here has a car, whether it's a motor car or a battery car. We need to build those jobs. That's why we're able to bring that new system in, and we're able to bring almost a third of the funding, $23 million, from state funding, county funding, and outside funding from a private developer to ensure that we're able to have young people working. And so those are the things I'm gonna bring. I look forward to serving you again. More importantly, I look forward to your questions, whether it's here or in our office. We wanna make sure that we're here serving you and not serving some of you. We wanna serve all of you.
Thank you. Timekeepers, I know I'm old, but that felt like a lot longer than 3 minutes. Can we make these questions 3 minutes, the answers? Were you doing 5?
No, these are 3.
Those are 3?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm ready for the home, I think. telling you. Holy cow. Awesome. Thank you so much. Wow. All right, the next question we have now, I know this is uncomfortable to stand all this time. I'm sensitive to this. If you want to sit, I don't know. I'm like awkward. Are you comfortable? Okay, great. Sorry about that. All right, great. All right, this is an awesome question, also submitted by the students. In today's uncertain times, citizens with wait, hold on. Okay, this is a mental health crisis question. There is lack of funding towards special education. Students are facing mental health crises due to severe stress, anxiety, and burnout from school. There is a mental health stigma regarding IEP students. As a candidate for office, what are your thoughts in these issues and suggestions to alleviate with new ideas? Thank you. Sorry. And I'll leave the card here. And we'll start with Chet. Thank you.
So in terms of the question regarding, I believe, funding for special education, adult mental health services, a lot of it goes through back to state funding and what the state can do and what they can provide. And one of the interesting situations is being a county legislator is you're kind of like a middle person, right? That a lot of people are going to come to you for help, and you need to know where to go, whether you need to approach the town for help or whether or not the state of New York or the federal government. And that is something that we need to continue to advocate for. And having served up in Albany and being a representative in the state assembly, I could be a great resource in terms of advocating for that money to make sure that our special ed programs are well funded, to make sure that the federal government continues to fund certain education programs, and to make sure that we have the proper mental health services at the school district level. In terms of the support out there from the county, in terms of mental health services, we can provide whatever resources are available at the county level. But we need to make sure that these areas continue to be funded because they are very important in terms of the amount of social workers that are hired by a school district, in terms of psychologists, and making sure that they know that there is a place to go to when they need help, when they're struggling. And not only that, like when we passed legislation at the state level with the opioid crisis, we realized that it wasn't only the person that was suffering the addiction. A lot of the stress had to do on the family itself. And never before was the family crisis addressed. Usually the services were provided for the victim, but there was never any emotional support for the family that was struggling in coping with the situation. So at the state level, when we passed the opioid crisis legislation, we made sure that there were psychological and social workers that were available there to help out the family members in need, and to make sure that the victims that were struggling with substance abuse not only had the necessary recovery time and resources, but also that the whole families had the support too. So a lot of times when you're looking at mental health services, it's not the only person that's struggling, but also the family and how to cope with those situations. So we want to make sure that we continue to provide those services. Funding comes from the state. Whatever availability comes from the federal government is very important, and whatever the county can do to assist also.
So let's be clear, when we talk about the mental health crisis facing our children, this isn't something new. In 2018, we were seeing some of the highest suicide rates among our young people, and I hosted a coalition to bring people together, educators and mental health professionals, to start to address these issues in meaningful ways. I've been working on the mental health crisis throughout my career. I'm the daughter, granddaughter, and goddaughter of clinical psychologists, so for me, this is something that is very personal and something I know very deeply. What I can tell you is when I became a legislator, one of the things that I accomplished in my first term, and I think one of the reasons why I was unanimously supported and endorsed by all of our law enforcement agencies in Suffolk County, was I brought a national program to Huntington, partnering law enforcement and our school districts, so that when a child is visited by a law enforcement partner in the home for an eviction or for a domestic violence issue, that those officers get the address of the children and send a handle with care notification to the school, so that when that child doesn't have their homework done the next day, they're not punished, they're surrounded by therapeutic support. That is how we mitigate trauma, by bringing real, meaningful programs, not by having conversations, but by bringing evidence-based programs to our communities. It's why I worked with our school district to get mental health first aid, so that folks who are working with our students, maybe not teachers, maybe bus drivers, or people working in the cafeteria or in other places, are accomplished when it comes to having challenging conversations if a child brings up something concerning. It's also why I've worked hard, quite frankly, to preserve open space. Because one of the things that we know is our kids are way too digital these days, and that has a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety on their well-being and development. So I worked very hard in a bipartisan way in the legislature to make sure Stanhope Stables was preserved, one of the last equestrian centers on the west end of Long Island where kids can have therapeutic experiences with horses, and partnered across the aisle with my colleagues in the town and my friends in the town to make sure that that got done. Because that also has an impact on the mental health of our children and our families. They need safe, healthy spaces to go and to have recreation, and that's a piece of healing as well. As far as the county, as I said to you, one of the biggest things that I'm proud of in my career is the work I did in the nonprofit sector. And so I work very closely with all of our nonprofits in Huntington and across the county and the region to harness resources for our kids. I've hosted Narcan trainings. I have been a vocal voice in the legislature for the fact that the county is sitting on opioid settlement dollars, what I personally consider blood money, that needs to get out on the street and in the hands of our nonprofits who know how to do evidence-based healing work for families that are dealing with addiction. I have been calling out the need to get those dollars out, and I am very, very focused on making sure that that happens. What I will tell you is that the mental health of our communities is an issue that affects all of us. What we learned during COVID is that if any part of our community is hurting, it affects every part. And so we all must do what we can to be that rising tide, to lift all boats. And I will always be that as your legislator, and I sure as heck have been your first term.
So the first part of that question is about IEPs and special education, am I correct? Can you guys hear? Can everybody hear me in the back? Yes. So I'm going to start with, I am that student. I was the kid in the resource room. I was the kid who was taken out of advanced placement history classes because they said I couldn't achieve. I was the kid they told my mother when I was 7 years old that I'd live in her basement for the rest of her life. I was the kid who they said would never do anything, would never get a degree, would never go to college. So I'm sitting here with a master's degree and a minority leader of the legislature. Now, they tried to commit me when I was 7 years old. So I understand what that feels like. I understand what it feels like to be told that you can't go but so far. I understand what it feels like when someone is holding you back, or when there's something holding you back and you can't verbalize that to other people. So the first thing I do when I speak to students is I tell them who I am. Because you can't go anywhere unless you see someone or know someone has made it that far. Sometimes we don't show the experiences, or we don't tell people where we come from or what we're going through. And it's so important that we make sure that young people understand that there is a path for you to succeed. Whether you're a stutterer, or whether you have a special education, or whether you have a developmental disability, you can achieve in this life. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about mental health, so when we did police reform, we made sure that we had a mental health non-armed response for anything that was happening. So this way, if something was happening and someone thought it was a mental health need, we sent counselors and therapists there with police in the background to make sure it was a safe situation. What has helped with that is that made sure that we've had less violent crime, less violent interactions, but we've also made sure that we've funded other nonprofits. And so a couple of years ago, we funded the first two occurrences of opioid funding. The first set went out to large organizations to make sure that those are the folks with infrastructure, some of those in Huntington. The second set of funding went to small community groups. Why? Because those community groups already know what's happening in their neighborhoods and their communities, and they're the boots on the ground who work with our school districts and work with other people. But none of this works unless we're all communicating. So if you can't explain to us, or you don't reach out to your local government and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing here, this is what we need here, then we can't be effective in going out. And so that's why I want to be a listener. That's why I'm running for another term, so I can bring more dollars to the community, and so I can make sure that we're working collaboratively with everyone and showing people how far you can go when we work together.
I mean, we are so fortunate to have these candidates, aren't we? The diversity and the incredible strengths of each of them. We have a great community. Okay, last question. In today's uncertain times, citizens are witnessing a number of issues regarding inequality within the housing market. Many homes have become unaffordable for younger generations. What are your thoughts on this? And as a candidate, what are you doing to alleviate these issues submitted by a student?
So my predecessor, Dwayne Gregory, saw this coming years ago. And so what we did is we created a land bank. And so what the land bank did, it would take properties either from towns or villages or from that have been contaminated, and it would redevelop them, take them off the tax roll, and then get them back in, either get them to nonprofits or get them into affordable housing programs. And if it's a property that has been dumped on, to make sure that those properties are cleaned up as well. And so we've been able to get about 70 or so houses, 100 houses already over the 10-year program that we've had, which is great. That's just single family homes in general. We all know that this crisis right now, this affordable housing crisis, is $700,000 is the average house. And so, here's the worst part about that. It's not just the $700,000. It's the average home buyer is now 56 years old. So, whereas 20 years ago, the average home buyer was 35 years old, the home buyer now is 56. That's 20 years older, almost 30 years. So what happens then? What that means is you're spending more of your time saving or spending money in places that's not investing in your career. Here's the other part of that. We spend more money right now renting, and I'm not just talking about homes. Your music, your Apple ID, right? Your Microsoft Office, all of that is rent. You don't own that anymore. We went from a society that put a priority on owning to now a priority on renting, right? And borrowing. And so what happens is you're not able to save capital to buy that home. And unless you get a degree or a house where unless you get a degree where you're making more than $200,000, you're not gonna be able to afford that $700,000 house at 18, which no one can, which is why we need to do two things. One, bring better high-paying jobs. It was a strategic plan in the 90s to remove science and technology jobs from Long Island, right? Grumman was pulled out. It was pulled out during a presidential campaign. That was a creation of IDAs. That was a reason for it, because we didn't have a competitive advantage with other states, because other states could offer better tax breaks for us. So we need to do two things. One, we need to get more houses into the land bank to get more affordable housing programs. One of the things that we've done in the county is made sure that any development that happens has at least 20% affordable housing. But two, we need to figure out how we can think critically and advance thoughts on housing in general. How can we make sure that you can live at home? How can you bring other people into your house, whether it's your family members, making sure that when you can age in place, that you have someone who could take care of you? How can we make sure that we can keep properties, one, in our homes and in our families, but two, make sure that young people have attainable homes for everyone to live in? Thank you very much.
So it's kind of like a culmination of other questions. We want to make sure that we have the best public education system that we have in the country, which we do on Long Island, because we want people to stay here, have families, have children, attend the local schools, go to college or trade school, and then come back to raise their families and hopefully retire here too. So bringing high-paying jobs there is very critical, along the 110 corridor and the Hop area across the county. And that's what we need to be as a champion, and make sure that the government doesn't have a lot of red tape so they can locate these jobs here. At the same time, in terms of increasing housing stock, we could look at some of the things that the town of Huntington did. When I was town supervisor, we modified the rules for accessory apartments. That made it easier for people to put accessory apartments in their homes so they could afford those homes. So instead of, in the old rules, you had to live in the major portion of your home and you were only able to rent out the accessory apartment. We flipped that so you can now live in the accessory apartment and then be able to rent out the major portion of your home. In addition to that, we changed the setback requirements, making it a little bit more flexible that if people wanted to apply for accessory apartment permit, they could help increase the housing stock. If we look at where to put housing in the town of Huntington, we look north of the train station for a long period of time. So you see the apartments and the mixed-use development going north of the train station, where the engineering firm is, where different types of coffee shops are opening, and then the restaurants above it. In the North Ridge section, the Old Tilden Break section. The reason a lot of economic development never happened south of the train station because of the lack of sewer and infrastructure, not only for clean water, but for economic development. So when we were able to work with then County Executive Steve Malone in the town board to bring in the sewer system to Huntington Station, that will help a lot with economic development in that area, especially when it comes to mixed use, whether or not it's restaurants, companies coming in, and then apartments above. That will help with the housing stock too. And then we look to the Melville area. And we want to make sure that we continue to bring those high-paying jobs to the Melville area. At the same time, we have a little bit of a crisis in terms of not many people still using that office space. So we have to continue to look at inventive solutions to bring hotels, to bring restaurants, to bring offices back to the area, and in some of those older buildings where there's extra space to bring maybe smaller condos to the area too, but not overdevelop the area. Like I said, it's always about strategic development, not about overdevelopment that puts a lot of stress on our roadways and, of course, the environment.
Bring the mic down again. So when we talk about the issue around affordable housing, let me just start out by saying it's a public health crisis that we have here on Long Island. And I hear about it all the time at the doors. I hear from our seniors who tell me, look at me, I'm widowed, I'm living in this giant house, I don't need it, a family could live here, but I don't have any housing stock to downsize to, and I don't want to leave the community I've lived in for 65 years. And so they're living in housing that might not even be safe for them, potentially taxing our EMS system and our first responders, right? Because we need them to be in safe housing. The second issue is our young people are leaving to North Carolina and Florida because they can't afford to live here. That creates a public health issue as well, because then there's nobody to look after our seniors as they age, and our young people don't have babysitters and childcare support as they start families. So it becomes a systemic issue in our society. I'll tell you a couple things I've done since I've been elected in office. I worked with the Long Island Board of Realtors to bring first-time homebuyer sessions here to Suffolk County, to my district, to make sure that we were educating young people and folks who wanted to purchase homes about how to benefit from different programs for first-time homebuyers and how to be strategic in making that dream come true. A second thing that I did that I was very proud of, one of the things that happened very early on in my term is I learned the challenges that our firefighters and our emergency service workers were dealing with when it came to affordability specifically. So our volunteer force saves us millions and millions of dollars a year. If we didn't have a volunteer force, we would be talking about affordability in 40, 50 years. We wouldn't be having that conversation today. They save us lots of money. And what I learned from them is that retention and recruitment were so hard because young people would come in, they'd invest in them, train them, and then they'd decide they don't want to live in mom's basement anymore and they'd be out. And so we have a real recruitment and retention problem. So I introduced legislation to set aside a percentage of our workforce housing in the county for our firefighters and for our emergency service workers, which I'm very proud to say ultimately that program was passed and really will make a difference. But let me just say this, when we talk about affordable housing, we need a diversity of housing stock. That's very clear, and it's something that, again, we have to work on with diverse sets of stakeholders, but we always have to think about environmental balance. And one of the reasons why I'm endorsed by the Sierra Club and the New York League of Conservation Voters is I'm a big champion of the environment. So we cannot build housing on vulnerable land. We cannot build housing without doing secrets. We cannot build housing without making sure that we are doing it in smart, strategic places. Wastewater infrastructure is a huge part of this. You heard folks talking tonight about the sewers coming in Huntington Station, which is something we need to celebrate, but it's not enough because we have aging cesspools all over the county, and we need to make sure that we're doing the work to build that infrastructure, to make sure that when we talk about building housing and when we talk about development, that we're doing it in a way that is safe and that is meaningful and builds a future for our Suffolk County residents that they can be truly, truly proud of. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our county legislators for your participation. It was excellent and very informative. We appreciate you. We're going to now switch, and thank you. We can all give them a hand, yes? And don't forget to vote for them. You remember who's who, right? If you need help, vote411.org, look up your address, and you'll find your legislator. Next, we're going to welcome our supervisor candidates up to the front. And while they come up, let me find my paper here about the supervisors. Nope. Chad, did you take my papers?
Yes.
Yeah, ha! You know, you're wrecking the flow here. It's like a true teacher, right? All right, great. Town supervisor is the chief executive officer of the town of Huntington, similar to a mayor. The supervisor manages daily operations, oversees all departments, and prepares the town budget, ensuring tax dollars fund essential services like public safety, sanitation, parks, and infrastructure. They preside over town board meetings, working with council members to pass local laws and guide planning, zoning, and development decisions that shape Huntington's future. The supervisor also serves as the town's spokesperson, representing residents in partnerships with county, state, and federal officials and advocating for funding and initiatives that benefit the community. At its core, this role is about leadership and collaboration, balancing the needs of residents, businesses, and agencies to keep Huntington safe, strong, and thriving while ensuring responsible growth and efficient government. Do you like these? Is this good? Do I keep doing this? We like this? Okay. Great. All right. The two candidates we have here are our current town supervisor, Ed Smyth, right here. Thank you. Who is running on the Republican and Conservative line. And we have Cooper Macco right over here, who's also running for Huntington supervisor, who's running on the Democratic line. And I actually have, for your intro, gentlemen, I'm going to incorporate a question that was submitted. So for Supervisor Smyth, when you come up here and give your introduction, can you answer what are you most proud of during your administration, in addition to your introduction? And Cooper, yours is what qualifications do you have to hold public office? So this was the same person that submitted a split question for the two of you for your intro. Thank you so much. You have 2 minutes. Either way, I'm sorry. Supervisor Smyth.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out today. I'm Ed Smyth. I'm the town supervisor, and I'm running on my record. I think we have a very good record in town hall with my colleague Dave Bennardo, who's here, and the town board has put forward a program focused on parks, beaches, roads, and garbage. That's our day-to-day operations in the town. That's what we've stayed focused on. We have delivered a balanced budget with an operating surplus over the last 2 years in the millions of dollars. We have focused on public safety and quality of life in the town. The parks, beaches, roads, and garbage, I'll leave the roads to Andre Sorrentino, my partner in the town, who is doing a fantastic job as your town highway superintendent. But as far as the parks go, we have spent a tremendous amount of money redeveloping and repurposing and renovating the parks in the town of Huntington. The beaches and the waterways have never been cleaner. One of the things that I stress always is that every community in Huntington is a waterfront community, because what happens upland eventually makes its way either into our harbors and bays or into our drinking water. So every community on Long Island is a waterfront community. The garbage, I stress this, pay attention to it. This is going to be the crisis that hits Long Island again, is our garbage and solid waste management in the town and across Long Island, because the Brookhaven landfill is closing. So these are some of the things that when they say what keeps you up at night, that's it. One of the questions I think was what was the proudest moment of or proudest thing during our administration? Not particularly exciting, but managing the budget and coming in under the tax cap every year I've been in public office. I think it is vitally important to manage keep the fiscal house in order in the town of Huntington and to make sure that the taxes are as low as they can possibly be while not cutting town services and making sure that we deliver on quality of life issues throughout the town. My administration going forward, if I'm reelected, is going to be focused on residents, customer service whenever you call town hall. It's something that we're going to have a culture shift in town to make sure that when you call town hall, there is a renewed customer service oriented program and output from the folks in town hall in every department. So I think I'm getting the hook, so I'll wrap it up or I'll go all night. Cooper?
Cooper Macco.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Cooper Macco. I'm running for town supervisor as well. I'm going to give you a little background. Some of you may know Ed. A lot of you don't know me. I grew up in Huntington. I've lived here my whole life. I graduated Cold Spring Harbor High School. Not this high school, sorry. But another school in the town of Huntington. I'm very proud to have attended there. Long Island University and St. John's University School of Law. After law school, I focused my practice on consumer bankruptcy. And the question, my end of that question was what qualifies me to hold public office? And quite frankly, I think a lot of what my qualification is that I deal with the public every day. Not just people who have everything going well. I often deal with people at their very lowest. I know a lot of the hardships that are facing your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, they may not talk to you about it. A lot of them talk to me, and I'll be honest, they don't broadcast that because your bankruptcy attorney is everyone's dirty little secret. No one leaves my office and says, I have a great bankruptcy attorney, because it's their lowest point. But it gives me an insight into the issues facing so many people: affordability, job security, the high cost of medical bills. These things are not just limited to Huntington, they're Suffolk County, they're Long Island, they're New York State, nationally. And it's that communication with the public that I do every day that gives me the qualifications for this office, because I know that I'm going to provide a different insight than the current town board, because that's not really where they, I would say, excel. It's not something that they do. It's something that I've done for the past 15 years that I love doing, because it makes me feel as if I'm helping people, because I am. I help save people's houses every day. I help save people from eviction, to restructure their debts, to get out from overwhelming medical debts. And that's something I'm proud of. And I think that's a great qualification and provides a different insight than what we're currently getting. And my diversity in my voice is what is going to qualify me for this position. So thank you very much. I'm getting the card.
Thank you so much. Anybody have any more questions to submit? If you want to raise your hand, or if you want a index card. Do you need an index card? No. Index card. That's my son.
Really simple.
No brownie points for my son. Everybody has to submit a card. Sorry, son. Love you. Welcome to civic engagement. All right. This next question actually is completely relevant to the current situation in Melville. It, I believe, directly addresses the Melville Town Center projects, but I will read it. It doesn't specifically say that, but I will read it and let you gentlemen interpret it the way you want. So we will start with Cooper, because you went first last time, so take turns. Okay. Question to each town candidate on why they would allow dense housing whereby the builder would seek full IDA funding and put the burden of that dense building on the existing residents. Why are dense housing builds being allowed when the required SECRAs, which is an environmental study, are not being performed on the entire area that may be developed? Why is the less than transparent approval being allowed when we have F-rated roads, potential water issues, and financial harm going to be caused to the school district? So this is pretty much, I think, the whole thing in a nutshell, yeah?
Cooper submitted that question.
Cooper, do you want to go for it? Okay, so I'm going to leave this up here so they can reference it. Thank you. 3 minutes. Thank you, timekeepers.
I'm happy I get to go first. I know this question is really directed at Ed more than anything else. I'm not currently on the town board. But, I have concerns about Melville, and I have concerns about the way that project was proposed and then passed. And the fact that full secrets weren't done, environmental studies weren't done, and really infrastructure studies weren't done really raised serious concerns. That being said, the redevelopment of underused commercial space is generally a good idea. And I hate to say that I do give the town board some credit on that. That's a good concept moving forward. Commercial space requirements are at an all-time low, and we need housing on Long Island. We need to bring back young people. And it's a balance. It's a balance of doing it the right way. Do I think the Melville Town Center was passed the right way? No. Does that mean that I would be against it for the end of time? No. I think we can do some damage control now and get everyone online with it in the way that makes sense by doing these studies now. There's a lot of points in here, so I'm just going to read this real quick. I would like to see that, I think there is a concern, particularly from the school district regarding the tax base, but I also think that commercial space that becomes vacant to a certain extent is also going to hurt the tax base. So adjusting that and bringing in new people with new money to pay taxes, regardless of IDA or pilot programs, is ultimately going to have a benefit to the school district in the long term. We have decreased enrollment in most schools in the town of Huntington. So providing new base and bringing a way to bring young people back and maybe reinvigorate some of these districts will make a difference, but we have to do it the right way. And that's what I'm selling to you, myself, to do it in a transparent way that's accountable to the voters, accountable to the school district, and accountable to the residents. Not doing something that without doing a complete study, not doing something without consulting every single thing, leaving no stone unturned. And that's all I can offer you, right? Transparency from day one and doing things that we can look at together for our collective futures. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
Well, thank you. Needless to say, I love this question. How much time do I have? 3 minutes.
As much as you want.
All right, I'll talk all night about the Melville Town Center project. I think it is one of the proudest things. I should have answered that on the previous question, but I think it's a great plan. I don't think it's a good plan. I think it's a great plan. And for people to say that it was not transparent, they were not paying attention, and that's the truth. I mean, we had countless public hearings. One at the middle school here in Half Hollow Hills. We had them at Town Hall. We had breakout sessions with all the interested parties, the first responders. We met with the school district. We met with civic groups. Anybody that called me, I think one of it might be here. I invited people publicly. Call my office. I will sit with you one-on-one and go through the whole plan. And several people took me up on that, and I did. Okay, this plan, to say that there was no secret done, is a lie. That it's just a lie. People will keep pitching that. Not true. It was done. It's been on the town's website for over a year now. Anybody that says, do a full secret, my answer to that is corporate welfare for developers. Because the town of Huntington would wind up paying over $1 million to do a full secret on the 183 acres, and we would pay for it. The taxpayers would pay for that. And the developers that came in and submitted a plan would have the benefit of that full secret, and they would do a cursory secret, piggyback on your report. So it's a bad idea. Secondly, we've heard that there was no infrastructure study. Nonsense. It was studied in depth. This was a 3.5-year plan. The reuse of those office buildings that are largely vacant. There are several that are fully occupied, but they're cannibalizing the tenants from the buildings next door that are in B and C condition. So you have several buildings that are fully vacant, the rest are, that are fully occupied, and the rest are growing vacant. Now, that's the biggest risk to this school district, is the tax base. It's evaporating. There has to be a viable economic use for those buildings and in the Melville Town Center. Now, the overarching goal of the Melville Town Center was to create a walkable downtown that would become a cultural and social center for Melville, something that I think is largely needed, something that when we had these meetings, almost universally, it was something that everybody was asking for. They wanted a walkable downtown as the end result. And I said this 3 years ago to several people who were in the room when I said it. I've been saying it ever since. The end result of this, of the Melville Town Center, is going to be, people are going to criticize it, as people do. They're going to say, it's a good idea, but you did it wrong. There's a better way to do it. Of course there is. There's always going to be critics. I think this is a great plan. I think it's going to work out in a phenomenal way for the school district, for the residents, and most importantly, one of the things that we stayed focused on is making sure that whatever was finally approved here did not adversely impact the values of the surrounding properties. I'll talk about Melville Center all night, proudly. Thank you.
We're going to give you one more minute to finish your thoughts. Cooper would also then like to follow with a brief rebuttal.
Sure.
Got that?
Where'd I leave off?
Well, there's a card right here
Oh.
to help you.
Oh, IDA funding.
Yeah.
We had one application come in, again, sky wasn't falling after all, huh? So we had one application submitted so far. It was Steel Equities. It's at the vacant building at the corner of Melville Park Road and Maxis Road. And one of the things, and Dr. Bennardo will address this when he speaks, but he's certainly the expert on school districts in the town of Huntington for the town board. He's our go-to person. But one of the things that we know, they're going to apply, again, to the county for an IDA. And we told them, the town is not going to support that. Go to the school district, sit down with the school district. They're saying this to the developers. Go sit down with the school district. Because the school district is most directly affected by any sort of IDA, any type of tax abatement. But keeping, and by the way, the developer did and will sit with the school district, and I think what they will come up with is some type of compromise directly with the school district that the school district will sign on for. And that's something that is something that is on the developer before they're going to get any kind of support from the town on this. But I use my minute? Well, until I get the hook, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
It's the hook. But again, the biggest risk is not the lack of taxes or an abatement. It's when these buildings, when these property owners grieve their taxes because they have a vacant office building, and they demonstrate that they have made a good faith effort to find tenants for an office building, and they cannot find tenants for an office building, they will be entitled to a tax abatement. That's the biggest risk if we do nothing. Cooper, all you.
All right, we have our first rebuttal. Cooper has 2 minutes, and then Supervisor Smyth can respond to the rebuttal.
I'll keep the rebuttal brief. As far as transparency goes, we have an open town board seat because there are questions surrounding what exactly went on with the passage of Melville and what one town board member's ties were to it. And regardless of whether, what the outcome is ultimately, that doesn't smell right. And that raises concerns. And that's why there's such distrust with the town board. By failing to disclose these type of things, you're generating mistrust, not being open and honest. Being open and honest, revealing everything is the only way, and the town wasn't doing that when they passed this project. And that's my concern here, and it may be totally innocuous. I don't know, but I can tell you that it doesn't smell right to me, and we are one town board member who is not here to meet the candidates because he's choosing not to run for re-election. Maybe because he doesn't want to answer questions about that. So that's just something to think about.
Supervisor Smyth, you can reply.
Yeah, I would reply very simply. I think, obviously he's talking about Sal Farrow. I think Sal Farrow's done a great job on the town board, and I have no problem defending him. And I think it's very easy to say, well, this could have happened, and that could have been the case, and this might have happened. It's cheap politics. And Cooper, I know I've known you for 15 to 20 years. You're better than that.
was exciting. Thank you. We get a rebuttal. Okay. All right. Let's see. This is a good one, also submitted by a student. In today's uncertain times, citizens are witnessing a number of issues regarding increased depletion of water and energy reserves. As a candidate for office, what are your thoughts on this issue, and what are your suggestions to alleviate this issue? Please share your ideas. Thank you. Supervisor Smyth.
All right, big, long question, sorry. And I'm sure Cooper's going to talk about my age sooner or later, so I'm putting the readers on. Yes. Okay. So I think it's water and energy. All right, so water, Dix Hills Water District. It's one of the most important things. And by the way, here's Steve Stern back there. He knows he's doing a great job in the assembly. I'm going to reserve time and just compliment him. He's getting out of here because he knows that every time I run into him, I'm looking for money. You know, and it's, you know, I run away from Andre Sorrentino because he's coming to me for money, and Steve runs away from me because I'm looking to him for money. So, but Steve's been a great partner in the state, and he really delivers for the town. So, thank you, Steve Stern. Just leave your watch and your wallet at the door. You need money. Anyway, I apologize for that. So water, Dix Hills Water District. You know, one of the biggest threats to drinking water right now is 1,4-dioxane. It's a growing, you know, concern with the Dix Hills Water District. I bring up Dix Hills Water District because as the Huntington Town Board, as a dual role, we're also the commissioners of the water district. So the other water districts in town have a standalone elected board of commissioners, whereas Dix Hills has us. The biggest concern is the filtration systems on the wellheads for 1,4-dioxane. Those wellhead filters cost about $4 million a piece. So you'll see periodically the town board, on behalf of the Dix Hills Water District, is allocating millions of dollars to put these filtration systems in. You know, we don't like doing it. You know, we don't like to take on debt in any form, but there are certain things that we absolutely must do. And drinking water, there's no compromise on that. And I'll piggyback on Andre. There's no compromise on safety. Andre uses that line all the time when it comes to paving the roads and keeping them clear. But that's also true of what comes out of your tap. And it was touched on earlier about cesspools on Long Island. There's a big movement to get away from that, get onto to sewers, which treats the water. So that's on the waterfront, on the water issue, the drinking water issue. Filtration is our biggest expense, and number two, not letting the water get contaminated in the first place is another huge issue that we're working on. And on the energy side, it's a growing concern. It was mentioned earlier by Chad about settling that LIPA lawsuit. I can tell you, I ran 4 years ago, and that issue, quite frankly, it was probably the biggest issue that the town of Huntington faced since we rebelled against George III in England. Okay, it was a huge issue. Nobody cared. I mean, I couldn't get anybody to pay attention to it because it's such an innocuous tax certiorari issue with a power plant. It was a huge issue. Settling that lawsuit is one of the things that kept energy prices across Long Island as low as we could possibly keep them. But the energy crisis is real. We have to look for any way we can to increase the energy supply for Long Island. It's one of the things that's keeping businesses off of Long Island is they say, okay, because businesses and factories and data centers are so energy driven that one of the things that they look to, in addition to infrastructure, water, one of the big ones is, what is our energy supply going to look like? So we are working hard in the town of Huntington to make sure that we get the energy transmission lines into Huntington so that we can support businesses throughout the town.
Cooper, thank you.
I'm gonna need those readers in a second.
I
Jason.
know, but
Very, very small. No, I got it. So, Yeah, as to the water issue, I think that's exactly right. We need to expand the sewer systems, and we can only do that through the cooperation of state, county, and federal funding. And advocacy for the local level as your town supervisor is something I look forward to. It's something I do every day as an attorney also. So that's it. I'm looking to advocate for more grant money to expand sewer systems and to expand testing. $4 million to test these wellheads. It's astronomical and not something the town can do itself. We need to find cooperative members of other legislative bodies to assist us in acquiring that grant money. Switching gears, we've seen cuts to alternative energy sources at the federal level, and that's concerning. We've seen offshore wind power now stalled due to the Congress's and the President's cuts. We need to brace for that as a town, and what can we do? I'm not sure, but we should be focused on solar panels at our railroad stations. We've seen the county already adopt solar panels in an effort to kind of mitigate that as well. Look into, and it's not everyone's favorite topic, battery storage and the safety of it, and where we're gonna do it with that, because that's gonna be a developing area in the future. And, you know, it was a question for the other candidates, the legislator candidates, what one of your skills. One of my skills is boundaries, and not the boundaries of the town. It's the boundaries of my knowledge and knowing what I don't know. And it's important that we get skilled people, smart people who do know about these things to come in and advise us as the town about what's safe, what's not, where we can try and explore new energy options, and where we can't. Because this is not a surprise to anyone. Your next supervisor is going to be an attorney. They're not alternative energy savants. So it's really something that we need to bring outside people in, smart people in these areas to act as advisors to the town. And that's what I would do. I would expand the advisory boards on these developing areas. We need to be on the bleeding edge of these issues, and I don't want to fall behind in the town of Huntington. I want to lead Suffolk County into the 21st century, and that's what I would try and do, bring smart people in to help us moving forward with the alternative energy issues.
Thank you. This is our last question for the supervisors. This is not submitted by a student. Cooper, you're going to be first on this. What is your position on cannabis shops in Huntington, and what about vape shops?
Right now, it is illegal to sell cannabis in the town of Huntington for recreational purposes. We have seen a number of gray market shops spring up in the town of Huntington. We had a very public raid, I think this weekend, on one of them in Main Street. We cannot allow illegal cannabis shops, we cannot allow illegal vape shops to come in and try and attract our youth. Unregulation, any market, whether it's alcohol sales, marijuana sales, vape sales that are not regulated, that are doing it behind the scenes, is concerning. The way that we make this safer for our youth is to regulate these things, right? We have these vape shops and these selling cannabis and these, smoke shops selling cannabis because people are buying it, and that's a concern that we don't have a way to deal with that. People can get marijuana delivery anywhere in the town of Huntington legally from the town of Babylon or from the town of Riverhead. That's not something the town can control. But we need to deal with this head on. We cannot bury our heads in the sand about this. There is a way that we can bring tax revenue back into the town, quite frankly, and it's something we need to consider. And that's something we need to explore. How we do that in a way that's safe for our youth, that provides drug and alcohol advising, counseling for people who may be suffering addiction, but we need to do it in a safe way. We can't ignore these issues anymore. They're here, they're on Long Island, they're in New York State. So if we continue to ignore them and say, well, you know what, that's never gonna be the focus in Huntington, that's a mistake, because again, we need to be moving forward, and we need to do it in a way that makes sense, not near schools, not near places of worship, not near, probably business districts, but in a way that's going to bring in tax revenue for the town. And maybe it's something that we need to reconsider. I don't know, I'm only one member if elected. I would need assistance from the other town board members, but it's something I'm willing to look at. And I know some people in this room may not like that answer, but without exploring these things, even things that I don't like, we're not going to move forward, and we're not going to benefit all of us. So I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. Supervisor Smyth.
If you're looking for a distinction between Cooper and I, that's it. I'm a hard no. And there's a lot of good reasons for it. I was just at a Supervisors Association breakfast out in Riverhead where the supervisors get together to talk about issues, and one of the things that came up was cannabis sales, the sale of recreational cannabis. I think on Long Island, Babylon, Riverhead, and Brookhaven legalized it. They regret it. They just sent a letter to Albany, to the governor, okay, and they regret it. Why? Because all this tax revenue that they were enticed by is being spent on litigation. By who? By the cannabis shops that want to open practically everywhere. I think Rich Schaefer in Babylon said they had the town of Babylon has 50 pending applications. Riverhead is about the same. They're spending this millions of dollars in tax revenue on lawyers because Albany, the Cannabis Regulation Board, I don't know what they call it, is now telling local municipalities that they decide, that Albany decides where cannabis shops are going to be situated in your town. That's, we went through this 2 years ago with local control of zoning. Okay, that Albany right now is trying to take local control of zoning away piece by piece, and they're starting with cannabis shops. Okay, I can tell you that Riverhead and Babylon and Brookhaven, whether they'll say it or not publicly, I'll tell you right now, they regret legalizing marijuana, and they can tell you all you want about how much tax revenue is coming in, and I find it astonishing for anybody to say, frankly, we're going to treat drug addiction with the tax sales on pot. That I haven't heard yet, but that's astonishing. I am a hard no on this. There's a lot of bad behavior, illegal behavior currently in the town that I think would be equally ill-advised to legalize and regulate. I don't think that's the answer to bad behavior. I don't think that legalizing pot is a good idea. I think we have done our best to curtail the vape shop problem, and it is a problem, particularly on Larkfield Road in Northport. They were popping up everywhere. This is a bad idea, and if, in simple terms, no.
I think we need to give a big round of applause for our supervisor candidates. Thank you so much for this lively conversation tonight and very informative. Thank you. Have a great evening. Our next set of candidates to join us is our town council. The town council is the legislative branch of the town of Huntington, responsible for creating and adopting local laws and policies that shape everyday life, from zoning and code enforcement to public safety, recreation, and quality of life issues. This is so cute. That's awesome. That you're so nice like that. Okay, council members work closely. Did you see that? That was great. Work closely with the town supervisor to approve the annual budget, allocate funds, and oversee how those funds are used. Each member represents all residents of the town, listening to community concerns and proposing solutions that reflect Huntington's diverse neighborhoods. The council also makes key decisions about land use, development, and environmental protection, balancing growth with sustainability. Members serve as liaisons to town committees and community groups, ensuring residents' voices are heard. In short, the town council serves as the voice of the people, guiding policies that keep Huntington vibrant and livable. So we have some great questions here. So we're going to start with our introductions. We're going to go left to right. This is candidate Stephen Anastasia, and you are on the Democratic line for town council. This is candidate Jen Hebert, who is Democratic candidate. This is Councilman Dr. Dave Bennardo, who is the Republican and Conservative candidate. And this is Mr. Greg Grizopoulos, who is the Conservative first and then Republican candidate. I don't know if that makes sense, but okay, great. So here's the question for you, all of you, to include in your opening. What experience do you have that you believe will help you be an effective town board member? So if you want to, let's start, Stephen. Let's start this way, and we'll go this way. And 2 minutes on the clock, please, timekeepers. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want you to be comfortable. But there's 4 of you, so it's going to be a while.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate it. It really gets me fired up seeing so many people here not for a campaign rally, but for a shared belief in the future of our community. It's truly important. Everyone's out here. We really, really appreciate it. My name is Anastasia. I'm running for town council for the town of Huntington because I believe that leadership starts with showing up, listening with humility, and acting with integrity. I grew up in Suffolk County, the son of a proud public servant. My father was the director of maritime services for the town of Huntington from 98 to 06. Thank you very much. On the time, not my dad's. Sorry. That's where I first learned to care about the waterways, what we care about in this town, the people, giving that people a voice, letting them know. At 17, I was fortunate enough to go to the United States Military Academy at West Point. Upon graduation from West Point, I was a second lieutenant, eventually promoted to captain. I served as a captain in the United States Army. I deployed twice to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, where I was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for my service. I came back from that deployment with a deep sense of commitment, not just to my country, but to the community that helped shape me. I grew up as a wrestler. I was a Suffolk County champion, all-state wrestler. I did theater. I was in many of the plays around Long Island. That community impact is important to me. It's part of what shaped me and shows me something that I want to give back to my community. Aside from my military service, I came back to New York. I went to law school at Fordham Law, became an attorney doing emerging technology transactions and financial institution law, making sure that large banks did things the right way with accountability, transparency, and ethically. I also helped start a nonprofit theater company that partners with hyper-local charities to give back to the community. Long Island Coalition for the Homeless, Salvation Army, book fairies, different community projects. So in the first year we raised over $50,000 that went directly to those charities. Also for me, this is not about politics. I'm not a politician. This is my first foray into this. I believe in selfless service. So if I were to get elected, I would donate my salary back to the town of Huntington to be given to community-focused projects. For me, this is about giving back to the people, not for personal gain. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Candidate Jen Hebert.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and special thanks to the students for planning this and asking all those great questions. So I feel really comfortable in this room, and I'll tell you why. Because the whole reason that I'm even here running for Huntington Town Council has everything to do with starting in the PTA. When my kids, I have 3 boys, they're all in their 20s. When they were in the school district, I started out, I wanted to volunteer, and so I got really involved. Along the way, I worked almost every PTA job, including treasurer, vice president, president. And then our school district came into a crisis time, and we needed better leadership at the Board of Education level. And so even though it was a really difficult time for our school district and there were 2 positions open and 5 people running, I ran at that time, and actually I got the most votes out of the 5 people that ran. And I ended up staying for 3 terms, which is 9 years of volunteer service for my school district, the Huntington School District. The second and third time I ran uncontested, which I think speaks to the kind of leadership that I am ready to bring to the table for you. And here's what I bring to the table. So I have the experience of representing community. I am accessible, and I'm interested in hearing not only what challenges you're facing, but what possible solutions you might have to come up with. Because frankly, some of the best solutions I'm hearing out there are at the doors when I'm knocking. Because the residents of Huntington are really smart, and they're really well informed, and they have some really excellent ideas about how to solve the challenges that we have. Besides that, I am a tireless hard worker. I'm a quick study. I am great at working across a table. And so when I come to a table, I don't care if you come from a different party than me, a different place in the township. I just want to work together to pull in the same direction so that we can solve some problems for Huntington and make Huntington the best possible place for all of us to live. So thank you very much for having me here tonight.
Councilman Dr. Dave Bennardo.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the students in the PTA and to the Half Hollow Hills family for having me tonight. So by way of background, I am a school teacher. I was an AP Social Studies teacher, American History and Government teacher, coach. That was the first 15 years of my life, of my professional life. And then I became assistant principal at Elmont Memorial High School, principal of Harborfields, and then superintendent of South Huntington. So that's kind of been my path all along the way, teaching at St. John's University. I'm now the director of public school relations at St. John's, so I kind of shifted into that world. I've been on the town board for 4 years, so I have a little bit of an advantage in that I've learned some things the hard way, some things the right way, some things I learned what not to do, sometimes I learned what to do. So I kind of bring that amalgamation of experiences, of battle scars, and of ideas to the table. My strength, my passion is to work in a civil way with people. You'll never hear me beat up one of the candidates up here. You'll never hear me talk about somebody that's not in the room. I don't do that. It's not my shtick. It's not my game. The people up here are good people. So I'd be a fool to attack them. My job in this town government role is to be the center of the wheel. I feel like between the schools, the churches, the businesses, the town's job is to be the center of that wheel. And I've been blessed to have a real strong hand in steadying our financial ship. That was the first problem we ran into in the town when we took over. Number two, building our infrastructure. We had some crumbling infrastructure in that it's not cool to do infrastructure. You don't get anything, it's not exciting. So it kind of went by the wayside, so we built those two things up pretty well. And the next move is to enhance customer service. So that's why I'd love to be with you another 4 years.
Mr. Greg Grizopoulos.
Thank you, June. I think next year I may advocate that we move this into the auditorium because I'm sure those chairs are uncomfortable. So thanks everybody for sticking through it. Thanks for spending the whole evening with us. My name is Greg Grizopoulos. I'm running for town councilman. We've had the opportunity to kind of work our way around the town and get to introduce ourselves to people. It is especially an honor for me tonight to be here because I'm a half Hollow Hills parent. So for those of you who don't know me, I know a lot of you in the room know me. Thank you. I have a daughter who goes to school here. She's a freshman at Half Hollow Hills East. I have a 7th grader at West Hollow, and I've got a 3rd grader at Sunquam. So if you're looking for somebody who advocates for your community and cares about you, because they care about mine, that's me. But you know what? I grew up in Fort Salonga. I'm an attorney by trade. I've been practicing for 23 years. I've always thought that public service and helping people was important, and I've been advocating for people for 23 years. I started as a prosecutor, handling criminal cases, everything from minor criminal offenses all the way up to serious violent felonies. I understand how to keep people safe, and I understand what drives crime in areas. I understand also, unfortunately, because of 23 years of experience, I know what communities need in terms of keeping us safe, and that also comes in the form of taking care of communities and neighborhoods that need development or redevelopment. Because if you let neighborhoods die and you let communities decay into nothing, that brings on new issues. So it is a real honor for me to be here tonight. I'm one of you guys. One of the things I've often said is, and Melville was a big motivating factor for me, developing an area for our families, for our friends, for neighbors to come and be able to hang out and spend a really cool evening in our neighborhood. If 5 people on the town board are going to decide what happens in Melville, from Melville or Dix Hills, and 5 people are going to sit on that board, somebody should be from Melville. Someone should be from Dix Hills or from South Huntington or from this area, because I own property and my kids go to school here, and I'm the only candidate up here who lives in this area and who has kids in this school district. So thank you so much. I look forward to the questions and getting everybody to be able to know a little more about me. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, so we're gonna resurrect this question about the Melville Town Center that was submitted. It's very thorough, but I'm gonna put a little twist on it. I just wanna let the community know that in this next 4-year term, a lot of projects are going to be, this is the opportunity where the Melville Town Center will actually come to fruition, and you're gonna get some projects approved and through the process. And the ultimate decision is going to be the town board members. They will, of course, have public hearings, and the community will be involved in the process. But that's really something you have to think about for your community while you're here in this area. So this question for these town board candidates, I'm going to say it again. Really, it's the very specific one I'll leave up here. It's the why are dense housing builds being allowed when the secret studies are not being performed on the entire area that may be developed? Why is it, let's see, wait a minute, what's the top one? Basically, how do you feel about the Melville Town Center? What is your priority to bring to this community? And how do you plan to work together to have them have everything that they need to raise their family here successfully? Greg, you're up.
Thanks, June. Okay, so it's a really simple question, right? Everybody seems to be on board with doing something with Melville, and I think we have to be very responsible about what we're going to do here. I'm a big fan of following the rules and following and checking all those boxes, making sure we cross all our T's and dot all our I's. So my goal here is to make sure we have transparent, and I think the town's been doing a great job having town open meetings and public meetings. I'm all about having those. I think it's really important to get the community involved, to get your perspective, since you live here, we live here, to know what we want in our community. I'm not for highly dense housing. That's not my thing. There has to be a balance. Overdevelopment and too much housing is a bad thing, but doing nothing is a problem as well. So, my feeling with this walkable downtown, and one of the things that struck me is, our Half Hollow Hills boys lacrosse won the state championships this year. It was awesome. We weren't able to have a parade down Main Street. We don't have a Main Street. Our friends at Cold Spring Harbor had a parade of heroes. I think it was a girls basketball. They had a parade down Main Street. It was awesome. And I remember calling some of my friends going, what are we doing for our boys? Is there a parade? There was no parade. They had an event. It was awesome. But to be able to have an opportunity for our neighborhoods to be able to go out, have dinner, get ice cream, walk through a parkland, I think that's awesome. And that's my goal here. And by the way, that my goal here and my goal and throughout everything and every decision I'll make, from Melville to Lloyd Neck and Comac and everything in between, is to make sure that our property values are preserved. That's my goal. Make sure your property values, your homes are protected, and our school districts are protected. And I'm never going to vote for anything that's going to affect them. I think we can do it if we do it right. They're on the right track, and I'm going to be that fifth guy to be your advocate and to be your voice on that town board. Thank you.
In terms of the Melville Overlay District, the Melville project, one of the reasons I chose to run again was to make sure Melville's done the right way. There was a part of me that said, go be grandpa, teach at St. John's and go be grandpa and cuddle the kids. And there was another part that said, I want to make sure this is done the right way. I hate pilots. I think anyone who knows me, knows I've argued with the governor, lieutenant governor, I've argued at the county level. So to whatever comes my way, when Steel Equities came to the door, you can ask them. I said, go back out unless you come in and you show math to me and to the business official, to the superintendent. They've already met a couple times here. Show me the math, that the math has to work for this school district. And I know the math. So you cannot tell me that based on vacant land, this is what it's assessed. No. Show me the math of pilots versus non-pilots, what the numbers are going to be. And the good news is that the school district has been taking me up on my offer to kind of broker that piece and to make sure it works. If this district's not happy, or at least can't live with the project, I'm a no. It's a real simple thing going forward. I didn't spend 40 years in public ed and have a father looking down on me who spent 40 years in public ed to hurt a school district. That's not the goal. So to me, we've got to do Melville in a way that the math makes sense for this district. And it's possible, it's doable. All right, I'm not going to throw a smoke screen up about Sal and talk about Sal or anything. Let's talk about what's real. And what's real is there is a way to do this the right way if we work with the district. The other thing is there has to be benefits. A developer wants to talk to me, my answer is going to be, what are you doing for the district? What are you doing for the fire department? What are you doing for this group? That's part of bargaining. My job as your official is to come away from the table with the best deal I can come away for your district, your firehouses, your police, for my vote. That's what the price of my vote is going to be to any developer. What's being done for the people in this room and their families. That's my...
Thank you, Councilman Dr. Bernardo. Can you explain what a pilot is, please?
Sorry.
No, it's okay, because some of us may not know.
So basically, what happens with pilots is, and we had them at the mall, for example. When the mall made its extension in South Huntington, parents went crazy. They're gonna have pilots, they're getting tax breaks. So what happened was the mall, Simon worked it out where there'd be a certain tax relief, and then gradually they would begin to pay full boat. And now, when I left there, they were paying $10 million a year on our tax base. So $10 million a year was coming across the street into the coffers. The way taxes work on Long Island is the levy doesn't change. So the full number that your district pays, your taxpayers pay, if it's say $200 million, that doesn't change. That can only go up 2%. What changes is how many people contribute to make that $200 million. So if the mall's giving me $10 million, it's 10 million less that you've got to tax the residents to come up with that $200 million. So pilots are payments in lieu of taxation. And sometimes they're given out like candy to developers. That's not the idea of a pilot. To me, a pilot, okay, maybe you need a break to get started, but what's the math? How many people are paying into the tax base based on how many children you think, or we can estimate that project's gonna bring in, and it has to be cost positive. If it's cost negative, it's a no. So that's what a payment in lieu of taxation is, and they're pretty controversial for good reason. Nobody wants to have this fight. Nobody wants to sit with a developer and say, no, come back. And you can do that. They'll listen, or they get a no. So we're really in the catbird seat in terms of how we leverage developers who do want to do things to do the right things for their school district. We are in the right place, or it's nothing, or nothing changes. They don't get to build anything. So that's the advocacy that we need in terms of pilots.
Very good. Thank you.
It's very nice to be in a position where I get to come up here and agree with two of the people who just spoke. So as a school board member, I was strongly against pilot programs. As a resident, I'm strongly against pilot programs. As a town council member, I would also be strongly against them. In Huntington, we lost out a lot of tax dollars to pilot programs that were enacted within our school district, and every year we would see those dollars not showing up in our budget where we really needed them. So what I'd like to say too is when the whole idea of Melrose, when the Melville project came up, there were several meetings that I attended, and they were very informational, and Steel Equities was at one of them, and they had, you know, the posters of their plans, and they were beautiful and I think well visualized. I actually went and met with them. I went and met with the owners of Steel Equities at their project that they worked on the South Shore. And I have to say, I was incredibly impressed with the beautiful work they did over there. So I'm not saying that I am against all building everywhere or in Melville. Or what I'm saying though is this. First of all, as a person who worked for the school board, I have spent almost a decade working on behalf of students, families, and taxpayers to make sure that you are being represented. And so whether I live here or I don't live here, what I can tell you is I have the expertise and the passion to represent you and to be a loud voice at that table for your interests and for the challenges that we're facing. And so I want you to understand that. The other thing though I would like to say, and I have 30 seconds left, so I'm gonna say this really quickly, is the process needs to be better and more clear. And it's not that anything untoward is happening, and I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything, you know, illegal or anything like that. But what I will say is, after knocking on doors at every place in the township, what I do hear over and over again is that people are concerned about the process of how things get approved and developed in our town, and they are not exactly trusting of it. So that what's happening is projects are being built, and they may be great projects, but they're instantly getting a knee-jerk reaction that the community doesn't trust them. So I would like to see us do something innovative with the process so that the community can start to feel more confidence in their town council that we're making good decisions for you. Thank you.
See, Jen thought it was easy and that she got to agree with the people before her. It's even easier for me because I just get to agree with everyone. I think we are all aligned on that. When it comes down to it, I think the last thing that Jen was just touching on is the lack of clarity and communication around this, right? This question is asking, were the proper studies done, right? On one hand, we're hearing that they were done. On the other hand, we're hearing that they're not done. That's a concern, right? That's our job as advocates, as leaders in the community, to let you know what is going on, to do things with transparency and accountability and integrity. I didn't answer this in the first question, but some of the qualities I feel that I bring are critical thinking, integrity, and selfless service. I'm not here for myself. I have unflappable integrity. There's not an issue that could come up that I will not stand here and answer questions about and talk through things thoroughly with every community member, whether it's through text message, a phone call, in-person office visits, whatever it is to get the messaging across so people feel confident and comfortable with what's happening in their town. That's part of the mission that I would like to bring to the town council. I know Jen, Cooper, other advocates on our ticket feel the same way. When we look at the Melville project, it feels like things are being done piecemeal. They're not being done in the transparent way that the community wants it. We need community buy-in, community leadership to talk, to discuss things. Again, and Cooper brought this up earlier, I'm of the same mind, right? I don't know what I don't know. So I talk to the people who are intelligent. I use that critical thinking skill set to think through the problem and come up with a solution that benefits the community. Not special interests, not developers. Again, going back to the Melville thing, one thing we talked about was the secret study would be paid for by the town. Have the developers pay for it with an independent third party that's picked by the town council. There's a creative, innovative solution. Do I know if that is an effective thing that can happen? Can I pull that lever on the town council? Sure, I don't know that right now, but it's something I can dive into, come up with outside the box thinking and ways to solve problems that don't put an extra burden on the taxpayers, but put a burden on developers that want to come in and they want to use that land, community buy-in, they're giving back. So that's something additional I tried to add to something that everyone else covered. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, our next question was submitted by a student, and I'm going to read it, and you take it the way you interpret it. I think it's very interesting and can create some interesting dialogue. In today's uncertain times, citizens are witnessing a number of issues such as unequal access to resources. As a candidate for office, what are your thoughts on this issue, and what are your suggestions to alleviate it? So, I know, it's very interesting, right? Okay. All right.
Okay, it might not take me 3 minutes to answer this question because it's either going to take me just a short time or a really long time. But I would say my answer in bringing equity, the first thing you can do to bring equity is to make sure that children everywhere, students in every school district are getting what they need and are getting a solid education, as our legislator said before, our access to food and health services. If you want to really level a playing field, make sure you're taking good care of your kids. This is coming not only from a mom of 3 boys who are in their 20s. As I said, they all graduated Huntington High School. I happen to be the director of a nursery school. I have been for 12 years. My life's work is to work with families to make sure that they're in a good place, because you cannot raise children if you're constantly worried about where your next meal is coming from, or whether you're going to make ends meet, or whether you're going to have a place, a roof over your head. And I mean that quite seriously. I have kids who are from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, and what's most important to me is that they all get the kind of support they need from my nursery school, both the kids and the families. Now, if that means, and it did today, that I have to call around to a pediatric dentist to see if they can take a child with a certain kind of insurance, because otherwise she's gonna wait a month and she's in pain, I'm gonna do that. And in fact, I did do that just today. So the truth is, again, if you're looking for somebody who is going to work tirelessly on your behalf, advocating for your family, your neighbors, your co-workers, again, I don't care what party you're from. I don't care where in the township you live. If you're in Huntington, that makes you somebody I care about, and I truly hope for the opportunity to represent you. Thanks.
I'll let you self-decide.
So I think this also kind of ties back to the earlier questions regarding like mental health crisis, equity, and I think the first thing we can do is understand these are real issues, be empathetic, and listen to people. Listen to the kids in our community. Listen to the parents. Listen to what is really going on. I know there's a lot of discussion at the town council level. I've seen at a few of these candidate meetings that some of the larger issues on the national level don't matter. I can't help but disagree with that. I know there's the parks, beaches, garbage, I don't want to misquote, roads. Yes, obviously, extremely important things, but there's more going on that's impacting our community. I imagine everyone in this room can't help but see the news every single day. And I'm not saying regardless of the political party, there is turmoil going on. Regardless, there always is bigger issues going on. And as an advocate, as someone who is representing your community, we need to be in tune with those issues and see how they're affecting every member of the community. There is a lot of mental health issues and stigmas. People feel, we have smartphones now, we're more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected. People are isolated. There's new issues that are always coming up that we don't know. Each generation doesn't know the issues that the current generation is facing. That's just natural. That is what happens. We need leadership that is adaptable, that's flexible, that's willing to listen, that's willing to put aside their own pride and say, hey, maybe I don't know about this issue, but let me tune in and listen to civic leaderships, to PTAs, to different groups that you can talk with and understand what the real issues are, so you can drive down and figure out those solutions. I'm not going to come into office with preconceived notions that I know the answer to everything. I certainly do not, and I imagine everyone up here, no one knows the answer to everything. But I know that I can work hard and listen to well-informed opinions, make a well-informed decision that helps to benefit the community, and give everyone in the community a voice, and let them know that they're seen and heard, and that the future of our community won't be dictated by, again, special interests, developers, people that don't live here or are transient who just came in here because they're trying to bring in high-paying job or whatever the circumstances may be, but people who grew up here, who live here, who care about this community and buy in. That's what I want to support and represent and give back to that community.
All right, so I think we're talking about access to resources. I'm not sure if we're talking about educational or not, but here's what I think. Whatever your position is on national issues, as town council people, as town council members, as your elected official in the town, I really believe we have to stay in our lane. We have so many important issues that face this town. From the almost 205,000 people who live in this town, there's a lot of issues. Now, I'm the first guy, and a lot of you in this room know me. If you have an issue and it's not something I can handle or I know how to deal with, I'll make sure I talk to the right person and point you in the right direction. And if I have to go sit with one of our county officials or our great county executive, Ed Romaine, I will sit in his office. I can call him in a moment's notice and get a meeting with him and bring your issue for the forefront. I'm okay doing that. But on town government, our job is to stay in our lane. It is, and I'll give the supervisor credit because he's spot on. It's parks, beaches, roads, and garbage. Those are the 4 important things that we can focus on as town officials. So if we're talking about equal access to resources, yeah, listen, one of the things that I'd love to see is creating either perhaps a South or a South Huntington town office, so that if you, from one of the South towns, have an issue, you don't have to go drive all the way up to the village. The village is a great place. There's great places to eat. But during the day or in an evening, if you want to meet with your public official and you have a question, I think we should have something a little more local here. And it'd be nice to have a South office of town government that we can do certain issues for your constituents and residents, so we can address those quicker. And you know what? If you guys have a problem, because it's town government, listen, town government can be very responsive. We can turn the ship on a dime. Federal government, state government, sometimes things take a while. But in local government, oftentimes a phone call can be addressed, and that issue can be addressed really quickly. And if it's not really quickly, or you're having a problem with it, I know you're gonna see me at Uncle Giuseppe's, I know you're gonna see me at the Totally Twisted after the next fall festival, and you're gonna tell me, this is the problem I have, and this is how I want it fixed, or this is the issue, and this is how I know you can fix it. So, it's all about responsiveness. I'm gonna see you in the supermarket. You're gonna tell me if I'm doing a good job or a bad job, or what you'd like to see different, and that's what I really think. So, listen, we stay in our lane as town government. There's things we can do for you across the board. But really, if we stay in our lane and we take care of the really important issues, local issues, like what we're gonna do with our park in our neighborhood, or what we're gonna do, around the corner about making sure that our areas are developed correctly and safely, and addressing clean water, and addressing, to make sure that public safety and transportation and traffic is important. Those are the things we can do. So it's literally about stay in your lane. Thank you.
So the good news on that is our lane is pretty big, and I really mean that. I didn't know how big until I got in this spot. I had a lot of boots on the ground experience with all different types of communities. I was in 100% free and reduced lunch communities. I've been in 0 free and reduced lunch communities, and I've been in South Huntington where it's half and half. So I've got experience getting those resources to people. But we have plenty in the town that are actually social service resources that have nothing to do with parks, roads, beaches, and garbage. We have, for instance, you don't know until you sit here that we have a CDA, a community development agency, that actually goes out and does repairs to elderly citizens' homes and citizens who are experiencing economic trouble. We go out and do that. We help families with food. Senior citizens can have lunch for $1. We serve 300 meals a day. We fix hundreds of houses a year. We shovel dozens of driveways a year. Those are things that are in our lane, that have everything to do with equity and everything to do with equal resources. Then there are things that have a more broader scope. For example, Flint, Michigan was all about lack of equity. You couldn't get a clean glass of water because they weren't paying attention in Flint, Michigan to the areas that had certain problems with their water. We, through the Dix Hills, work with the Dix Hills Water District, have worked to bring wellheads to, at the cost of $4.5 million each, because that's what equity is about. It's not about what you can pay for a clean glass of water. It's, can we bring you the wellheads? Can we get them to your community, whether you live in a less affluent community? That's the town's job. So in our lane, I agree, you never want to be in a situation where we're supposed to be doing this. I said this as a superintendent. We do English, social studies, math, and science, sports, and music, and art. That's what we do. We're not going to sit here and have a debate over the grand issues of the day. We'll leave that for the bar at 2 in the morning for a bunch of people who think they have all the answers. I don't. But I have more than enough in my lane. We have more than enough going on here with the services that we provide that we've got to keep those services flowing under the tax cap. And that's our charge. So my argument is, yes, stay in our lane, but man, if you just sat with an hour with me and hear about the things that our town does do. We have a huge drug and alcohol treatment center. A lot of people don't know that. Huge, massive amount of adults and kids through there every day. You don't know that unless you sit in that room and you see what they do. So that's kind of the work we've been doing to kind of bring equity here in our lane, within our responsibilities. And we're gonna keep going in that direction. Again, it might not sound exciting, but man, it makes a difference.
All right, this is the last question, and it's going to be a two-parter because these are both really good, and we don't have a ton of time left, but this is going to be your challenge, trying to answer these different but similar questions. The first part is, in today's uncertain times, citizens are witnessing a number of issues regarding inequality within the housing market. Many homes have become unaffordable for younger generations. What are your thoughts on this? And as a candidate, what are you doing to alleviate these issues? Part one, I'll leave it here. Part two, may or may not be related. What do you plan to do to combat racial bias and discrimination? Okay, so you can split it. They may not be related, they may be related. I'll leave them both here.
Yeah, no, go right ahead.
Dr. Bennardo.
I think the first part in terms of housing, it's supply and demand. The way you create affordable housing, and not the term affordable housing where 20% is affordable, because that's an absurd number in Huntington because it goes by mean income, and the mean income is really high. So even the affordable housing set aside, the 20% in Huntington, are unaffordable. But the way you increase affordable housing, the way you make housing more affordable is through more stock, is through more housing. However, you can't do it in a way that it devalues the neighborhood that people are already in. We could make things, in Appalachia, it's very affordable. Right? You can go up there now to a mountain that has nothing and you can get a house for $3,000. We don't want to do that either. So our magic is to find the sweet spot where we're creating enough stock, but high-end stock, so it opens homes up to younger families. That's what happens. Then there come more houses on the market with young families, they populate our schools, and that's one of the ideas as we work on Melville, to create more stock, reasonable stock, good quality stock though, not to create a situation where we're devaluing what everybody in this room is probably their biggest asset. The second thing in terms of racial bias, you deal with racial bias by living equity every day. And I got the best lessons in my life. I went from Plainview and Bethpage to Elmont, and I learned what it was like to be the only person who looked different in a room. I learned it, I walked in the shoes, I went with my valedictorian to, in those days they had music stores, if you remember, and we had to go get music for the pep rally, and he was followed by a security guard. My valedictorian ended up going to MIT. So I wanted to choke the security guard. He was cool about it. He's like, I deal with this crap all the time. My point is, you deal with equity, you deal with racial bias by walking in the shoes of people who look different than you, speak different than you, have a different set of background than you. All right, you don't deny those things. We can't be colorblind, we have to be color courageous. and we have to be willing to talk about the things that are challenging and are difficult communities. So to me, I've always had a seat at that table because of the work I've done. I've always been able to call and use my resources. I've been able to call the NAACP and get advice from Tracy or her mom or Dee. I've been able to call the Urban League. I've been able to call the Latin Quarters. I've been able to work with Rabbi Klopper. So I've been able to work with these groups because when you bring the groups together at a table and you treat everyone with the same level of expectation, there is a soft bigotry in low expectations. There is a soft bigotry in low expectations. When you start having different expectations for different groups of people, it's bigotry. It actually reduces the quality of life. So the bottom line is high expectations, rising tide lifts all boats, walk in their shoes and have the tough conversations. Say to someone, why did that offend you? That's critical. And I could go on and on about this because it's a subject I love, but I won't. But yeah, so that's that.
All right, so let's talk about housing, right? I think part of the question was making sure, it's over here somewhere, making sure we address housing. So I think as a public official, as an elected official in town government, that every elected official owes each resident a responsibility to make sure that your property value stays where it's supposed to be and increases, and also protects your property values from anything that jeopardizes it, right? So that's about finding that sweet spot. I sometimes call it the Goldilocks of housing, right? Too much is no good, none is no good. We need to kind of find that right balance right down the middle. And I think your public officials, your town officials owe responsibility to make sure that the neighborhood you bought in stays in substantially the same condition as the day you bought it. That means we're not changing zoning, we're not changing, the nature and the character of the suburban community or the community that you purchased in. Because that's why you chose to live here. You chose to pick schools. You chose to pick suburban way of life. That's why many of us moved here from other areas, or you stayed here because you grew up in that. And so I think that's important. And just by the way, just to clarify, because I don't know that we've necessarily defined where the Melville Town Center is, right? We're talking about an area below and south of the LIE on the the east side of Route 110, kind of down Maxis. It's all, if you guys know where we're talking about, it's the Huntington Quadrangle. It is paved parking lot areas. By redeveloping and invigorating that area, we'll have more green spaces, more areas to develop. Listen, development isn't perfect in every neighborhood or every area, but an area like that, which doesn't abut up against anybody's property values, is prime for doing the right thing. And so I think, again, if we can address that smart, intelligent redevelopment of that area, we can create a housing stock that allows younger people to be able to stay here, graduate from, we spend a lot of money on our taxes to educate our kids, and we want them to come back here and live here. So if we can create a housing stock that allows them to move in there, 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, not a family residence, but a place where they can start out, that's a great opportunity for them to be in that area. It'll be in Melville downtown. It's got access to the LIE. It's a perfect spot to start out. It's also a great spot for our senior housing, right? People who are ready to downsize from that 5-bedroom house in Dix Hills or Melville and be able to say, you know what, I don't need this property, but I don't want to move to Florida. I want to stay here with my kids and my grandkids. So they can move into one of those locations, and that then opens up their house for the younger people who now are starting families, growing their families to move into that area. And I think if you do that, you'll create that cycle of housing that really works really well. But you can't overdevelop it, and it can't be no development. I got 15 seconds for the most important topic, which is diversity, right? Diversity and is really important. We need to make sure that we always are addressing biases. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's the unconscious bias you have to work with. As an attorney for 23 years, as a former prosecutor and somebody who practices in a courthouse every day, it's things we deal with and talk about all the time. So it's about talking to your kids, it's about education, it's about those community programs, and about community in the town, those divisions that we have, that we can have people reach out to the community, talk to your civics, talk to your families, and really try to address, sometimes talking about it addresses those issues and you know how to deal with it. Thanks so much for your time tonight, everybody. Really appreciate it. Really, thank you.
Did he mean me with senior housing?
Could be me.
All right, so I'm going to start with the second question first because it really strikes home with me. One thing you should know about me is I grew up on Long Island. I grew up in Nassau County in a small town called East Williston. You've probably never heard of it. It's really tiny. But what you should know is it had a fantastic school district, which is exactly why I went into education, because I valued so much the education I got there. But it lacked any diversity. So when I met my husband in Boston and then I convinced him to move back to Long Island, one of the things we really consciously made a decision about was to move to a part of Long Island where we could raise our children and they would be in a diverse neighborhood, in a diverse community, and go to school with kids who were different skin color, different religions, different, practicing different faiths and celebrating different holidays. So this is a really important topic to me, and it's not one that I'm presumptuous about. So the way I would answer this is, if I stand up here and tell you how I'm going to solve problems with diversity, well, that's really arrogant of a white woman like myself. The best way I can figure out how to tackle issues of diversity and how to change things in a good way, in a positive way, would be to sit down with people from those communities and have them inform me about the kinds of challenges they're meeting and the kinds of solutions that they're looking for. So that's how I would address that. I wouldn't presume to know the answer to that. I don't walk in those shoes, but I know that I can talk to people who do have those issues and are walking in those shoes and find out exactly the kinds of solutions that we can come up with together. So that's the first thing. In terms of housing, I agree, we need diverse housing. Again, I have boys in their 20s. I'd love for them to move back to Huntington if that's what they wanted to do. That being said, there are so few green spaces left in Huntington. We're not out east. We don't have big, swatches of land that are undeveloped and just waiting for us to put something up on them. The pieces of green space we have left in Huntington are like little triangular spaces in between different neighborhoods. So yes, we need to reimagine some of our empty commercial spaces, and obviously that's what the Melville overlay is. But I just want to caution people, because a $1.7 million townhome on Spring Road is not diverse housing, okay? That's a red herring. And if what's being put up is completely unaffordable to anybody, just about, I won't say anybody, to many, then really what you're doing is you're pricing the rest of us out of our own neighborhood. Okay, so let's be honest when we go and tackle this issue. If we're really gonna tackle this issue, let's be honest and make sure that stuff that's being put up is not unaffordable to everybody that lives here and ends up pricing us out of our own neighborhoods. Thank you.
So to tackle the housing question, I think the first thing we need to think about is smart, comprehensive, long-term planning. Anytime we're looking to tackle a large issue like this, it needs to have the foresight of a long-term plan. Not reactionary, not when a developer comes in, they want to build a McMansion type property. It's thinking about what the community wants, speaking to, again, community leaders, civic leaders. And when developers come in there, it's making sure they're doing something to benefit the community, to build smart, affordable housing, smart housing for the members of our community. Just like Jen was mentioning, not the $1.7 million townhome or whatever other properties are being built. It's understanding what the town needs at a holistic level, having prior planning to prevent poor performance. These are important factors that we can't just, again, can't be reactionary. We need to think first. We need to talk to the people who need to be engaged, community leaders, smart developers who are bringing something to the table and not just looking for a handout from the town. Then to tackle the second issue of racial bias. As we're talking about these issues, I keep going back to this thought of stay in the lane. When we tackle these questions, that lane starts sounding more like a highway, right? These are real issues that face people in our town that we need to be aware of. And Jen said it perfectly, right? I can't answer the questions of people who I don't look like, right? I need to talk to them. I need to understand. I need to be open to realize that maybe what I am doing is wrong. Maybe I don't know, right? There's bias that we have every day that factor into our decisions. And unless we're talking and engaging the right stakeholders and community leaders, we don't know the proper solutions moving forward. But we have to address that it is an issue, and it's not just a stay in the lane, keep our head down. It's something affecting all of us every single day, and we're seeing it again. not to harp on like national level politics, it's not what it's about, but these things do trickle down, and we see it. We see it in our local communities. We see DEI programs being attacked. Like, I'm a veteran, I fall under the DEI programs. I understand the importance of people who have come from, again, a lot of veterans, they get out of the service and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to readjust to civilian life. They don't know what those next steps look like. And it's important to have people who advocate and who understand that plight in their life. They understand what the next steps could be by talking to them, understanding, serving with empathy, and understanding the community's goals and interests. I have 30 seconds left. Just want to say thank you very much, everyone, for taking the time to be here. I know this was a long night. We truly appreciate it. Thank you for listening to us. We hope you've earned your trust and support. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our town council members. You have provided us some amazing information and lots to think about, and I think a lot of great direction on how we're going to choose to vote on November 4th, right? Thank you so much. Next up, we are going to bring up our highway gentleman, our Superintendent of Highways candidates. Thank you. I think we should just stand. Here comes Vincent. All right. We got a good one for you. Hold on. Don't fail me now. The town highway superintendent is responsible for the maintenance and safety of all town roads and infrastructure. This includes paving and repairing roads, maintaining curbs, drainage systems, and street signs, and managing snow and ice removal during winter storms to keep roads safe and passable year-round. The superintendent also oversees tree maintenance, brush pickup, and stormwater management, helping prevent flooding and protect the environment. Beyond field work, they manage a large staff, fleet of vehicles, and department budget, ensuring resources are used efficiently and effectively. Because residents often contact the highway department first for potholes, drainage issues, or storm damage, the role requires strong leadership, organization, and communication. In short, the highway superintendent keeps our town moving, maintaining the infrastructure we all rely on every day. Thank you, ChatGPT. All right. Hey, why not? We got to use the tools we have. All right, so we have two candidates for Superintendent of Highway. Our current Superintendent of Highway, Andre Sorrentino, who's running on the Republican and the Conservative line, right? And then we have Vincent E. Colavita, who's running on Democrat line. Okay, great. So our first question, this is actually a good one. What are the three most important skills you have that will most assist you if elected? And that will be part of your introduction, if that's okay. 2 minutes. Either one. Vincent, come on up. All right, great.
3 minutes or 2 minutes? 2 minutes. People want to go home and go to bed. Good evening, folks. My name is Vincent E. Colavita. I'm running for Superintendent of Highways as a Democrat. I'd like to thank June for moderating. I'd like everybody to thank everybody for being here for the PTA. Well, thank you very much. So, yes, I am a Huntington resident. I've lived here for 10 years. We moved here with my wife and I moved here into the village, and we fell in love with diversity and the historic nature and the sense of community that this town has. And that's a very strong community, and it has something that I want to take part in and do my civic duty to preserve that sense of community here. And that starts with the Superintendent of Highway. So my three most important skills that would help in terms of leading the department, one would be I'm a collaborative and fair leader. I can motivate, and I could bring many different factions together to come to a common ground. I am a good task manager, planner, and project manager. I'm effective at being able to make sure that things are done efficiently, collaboratively, again, going back to the first one, and effectively to be able to provide services for our folks. I have a 20-year career in the technology industry, which is focused on service management as a main focus. It's servicing and providing support to end users on a day-to-day basis. That, again, goes into project management and making sure that there are efficient game plans and strategic efforts being put forth to be able to finish a project. So that's integral to the town highway department, to make sure that we're not wasting taxpayer money. We're doing We're being as efficient as possible. We're being proactive instead of reactive with respect to the roads in our neighborhoods. Look, folks, I see the town of Huntington as the gateway to Suffolk County, right? We provide that look to Suffolk County. We're the first look. I want to make sure that we put on our best face, and that's that 800 miles of roads. It's making sure that we have serviceable street sweeping happening. We don't infect our watersheds with poor planning on the types of chemicals we use within the township. The other part of it is the pedestrian. I know I didn't answer the question because I have a third one going, I think. I'm also very good at making sure that I can motivate and get folks together to come together and provide services for everybody. But the last part is I want to make sure that active transportation is taken care of, and that means our pedestrians, our sidewalks, our disabilities, our accessibility factors within the township to make sure that people are safe and provided the ability to survive 15 seconds. Okay. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. Here's the card. Andre, what are the 3 most important skills you have that will most assist you if reelected? Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you for having me here tonight. I appreciate it. So, my 4 years of office, what do I bring to the table? Where do we start? So, I grew up in the automotive truck industry, heavy equipment industry, at the age of 13. I started doing this not as a hobby or needing a job, just for the love of our town. I got involved with the highway department. It's something I wanted to do when I was 16 years old. I have an extensive, it goes back, like I said, I started out at 13 years old, and this is nothing new to me. I'm just, I love our town. I love doing what I do, and I bring a world of knowledge to this particular job. This is what I do, and I appreciate you supporting me.
All right, this one's more specific. What are the plans or policies for repaving damaged roads in the town? So we have the existing plans. I think, Andre, you should talk about that first, and any suggestions for improvement or other ideas that we might have that.
So, on my time here, in my almost 4 years, we've paved almost 200 miles of road. We were accustomed to 25 miles of road a year, so I don't have to tell you how long that would take. So with the help of town board and our supervisor, and he's still here, Steve Stern, thank you, Steve, for coming. He was a big help in us starting our own in-house paving crew, which was never done before in Huntington. We were able to acquire a milling machine, a paving machine, rollers, trailer, truck, and folks that might have not had a chance to do things before, except for pick up leaves or cut grass, they got training now. They're out paving roads, which now we're doing an extra 25 miles a year when we did nothing. So we have our supervisors out, and as far as looking at roads that need to be paved, every day someone's out on a road, and we do react. When someone calls, we react. I come out personally, my deputies, my assistants, my supervisors. So I'm like so into this, it's not even heard of what I put in. My wife is ready to kill me. This is what I do. I don't do something if I don't put 100% into it. So the roads, to me, were obviously in disarray. When I came here, we have 800 miles of road. There was nothing going on. We were doing 25 miles a year. Think about it. It would have took 30 years to pave Huntington. We're already up to 200 miles. That's unheard of with the amount of money we get. It's $200,000 per mile to pave a road. It's crazy. I didn't make the prices, but we're doing it. And with the help of the men and women that we have in place, no extra people, we just trained some folks, and they're doing a great job. That's why when people say, oh, would you change anything? Not a thing. They're doing a wonderful job. Down from the office staff, the girls that answer those phones and get those complaints. And yes, if we get a complaint on social media, we react. We're there the next day, most of the time. If not, we'll get there within 2 days. Now, can we pave every single road? I wish I could make it rain asphalt, but it can't. It just doesn't happen. But 200 miles of road is no joke, and we did it with the help of this town board and Ed Smyth as our supervisor, and that cat in the back, Steve Stern. I work along with him, and without him, we wouldn't have a paving crew, period. That's it.
Is this right here?
It's this one right here, but we're not doing the bottom yet. We're just doing that.
Plans and policies, yes. So, Andre, yes, 200 miles worth of roads is fantastic. Being responsive to social media posts and everything, yes, it's all great. And Andre does, he's well respected, he's loved by the town. And I do commend him on his service. And that's another thing too, it's all about that aspect of service. I think we're all here for that aspect of service. And that's what we want to do. We want to provide for our town, for the town of Huntington, is good service. And I know that Andre is committed to that. However, I also see that there could be some more strategic and more project and more planned-oriented approaches to managing our roads. And that goes into also the efforts behind mitigating damage that happens within the plowing season. I know we've had a couple of mild winters, but getting beyond that and being able to assess roads on a case-by-case basis to be able to maintain them, and then to maintain the management of the roads over time. So you're not falling into the trick of somebody posting something on social media and then having to be responsive towards that, because I think that you can sense that there might be some disrespect to the department where I don't think that's warranted. And I think I want to make sure that the folks that are in the department, it's a big group, it's a big team, that they're well respected and that they are loved by this town, because that's the efforts and the service that they put in behind this town make this town go. So I want to make sure that that's avoided. Again, also with training, Andre is on point with training. I think training is very important, but I also don't think it should be so focused on one part of making sure that we're doing in-house jobs. I think it's also something where we can utilize it to make sure that we have career development for people that live in the town and they can afford to live at a middle-class lifestyle in the town. And I want to make sure that we're being able to handle that within the department. I also like the fact that there is also the understanding that you need to have a bipartisan approach to this, right? So, you know, Kathy Hochul had allocated $800 million to rebuilding the roads in New York State. I looked through a little bit of that promises. I saw that there was nothing coming to something like Huntington, right? So I want to be able to be in a position where I can negotiate with Mr. Stern, Mr. Assemblyman Stern, or to have him work for us to be able to go up there and allocate and understand that, you know, Huntington, the county, Suffolk County, we need money to fix our roads. And if people did read that Newsday article that came out maybe a couple of months ago, you could see that we're way underfunded. And I know Andre is saying that right now. We are way underfunded to be able to handle the infrastructure in a town like Huntington. We have 200,000 plus, I think Greg was saying that, constituents here, and I have 15 seconds. I can go on for days about this. I think they deserve more than that. We are a developing part of the New York State, and we are the entranceway to Suffolk County. I don't know if that really answered the question, but I feel that, I feel that we can do a little bit more in terms of project planning and budgeting and getting that revenue.
You actually grabbed the next question. You did, which is good. Well, I have two left, so I'll do that one. What is your strategy for securing additional state or federal funding to address infrastructure needs and safety concerns? And Andre, if you could give some insight about the budget situation for the highway department. And then one more question and we're done.
So the budget's pretty much been the same since my friend Bill Norton was here. Paving's always been a big part of it. Highway gets the same thing. I'm lucky enough that I can strategically do things with the outside contractor. We don't just do the paving ourselves. We have, right now, Basilico does it. So they get their share of paving. We just do the ones that complain in-house, where we never had that before. We're able to do that in-house now. But the Basilico people do all the major roads. Now, as far as getting money, we'll go back. Everybody knows I'm gonna call and I will get money. It's that easy, and they give it to me. So why do they give it to me? Because they know they're gonna get a product when they're done. There's no joking around with what I do. I ended up taking a fleet of 75 pieces of equipment that were down when I got here, and I got hit with a blizzard. 2 days later, I got hit with a blizzard, and we managed to do it. The way we're doing things now is a lot different than the way people are used to, because I am from the service industry. I make customers happy. That's why I had a successful business, which I still do. My brother and my wife run it. I'm lucky enough that they do, and it's still going. And my thing is, when I got here with all that broken down equipment, I'm like, I'm not gonna buy all new equipment. A new truck today is $350,000 for a 10-wheeler with a plow and a sander. Okay, $350,000. I redid the whole fleet for $900,000. $900,000. That saved the taxpayers close to $20 million. So I can hang my hat on that with money. That's why they give me money. I saved everybody money, so of course they're gonna give me money. I'm saving money here, that's what I do. So long story short of it, I can go to just about any politician, Democrat, Republican, because in the great words of Bill Norton, he was a 26-year highway superintendent, there's no Republican or Democratic way to fix the road. Just fix it correctly.
Do you want to expand on your prior answer regarding funding? Acquiring funding. Up to you. Any more ideas? Good.
I do. No, go to the next one.
All right, and then we have this last one. And this one, actually, we've had in our hand the whole night, whoever wrote the two-sided question. It was a student. This is actually very apropos to highway, and it's a concern about the environment and water quality and pollution. It's like in a three-part question. Ooh. So if you could speak about, both of you, how the work of the highway department protects our waterways from pollution, from flooding, our communities, et cetera. There's a lot of ways that highway has to get involved with all that stuff and make a big difference positively for the environment. Vincent?
I'll take that one.
Okay. And it doesn't really say that.
Okay. Yes, our environment and our watershed is very important for our community. I think that's that's cross-party lines, and I think Huntington has, as everybody said, we have amazing green spaces. We have a great watershed, and we have communities that we need to care for in terms of things that can get into our water and into our homes. So I think the highway department is first of all, they're responsible for 20,000 drains, and then I think 20,000 catch basins. There are concerns around stormwater runoff and making sure that we're mitigating the overflows going into the filters, making sure that we're upgrading and cleaning out those filters at the end of the sewer systems to make sure that contaminants aren't getting into the road. But it always starts upstream. You talk about like staying in your lane stuff, right? Like all that. It stays upstream with what you're using on the roads and whether or not you're doing proper street sweeping on a consistent basis, and making sure that that's something that you're not using chemicals, you're not using anything, or you're making sure that you're cleaning out those drains that are going to pull that water out and then put it into our filters and out to our watersheds. So it's that concern around our environment that the highway department is basically in charge of. So in terms of my plans for that, I would increase street sweeping, and I'd also look into innovative ways to handle our plowing and our salting on the roadways, as well as like what types of asphalt we're using that might cause problems within our drains and within our filters and going out into our watersheds. just making sure that we're able to be in a position to be innovative and to be concerned about the environment, not just sitting back and paving a road, not working on the drain, and then not doing the street sweeping in terms of the maintenance of that road going down. I left out the plowing too, to make sure that that's not something that you're losing. We're getting all parts of the process taken care of, because it's also, I hear a lot from the team in town hall right now about we're maintenance mode, right? Yeah, but what does maintenance mode mean? Does that mean that you're not doing anything, or do you have to do just a little bit more to maintain higher levels of service and making sure that we're not impacting other areas? 30 seconds, I see that, like our watersheds and our environment. And I think it goes a long way to be able to do that analysis, have innovative concepts behind it. There's another thing too, everybody has these EVs, these electronic vehicles now. They weigh considerably more than a normal gasoline or gas-powered car. We're going to see that impact our roads going forward and our infrastructure going forward. So we have to be planning ahead and in advance of that. Now that's environmentally sound, some might say, but it's also something that we have to be concerned with within the township, and being mindful of that, I think, is up. I'll pass it. Thank you.
Sweepers. I had 6 of them running for 30 years. I know everything there is about sweepers. I have a program that we do. We're on a sweeping program. Sometimes we get out there and we might get complaints that we're there too much. So as far as sweepers go, we do a sweeping program. As far as plowing goes, listen, I'll never put a price on safety. So I'm here. As far as safety goes, that's my middle name. Ask my kids, they'll tell you. They call me Safety Sorrentino. It's no joke. I'm all about safety. When the school boards call you, or the superintendents of schools, and they're like, thanks, Andre, school didn't close only one time since you've been here. Pretty good. You know who's mad? My kids, because the school's open. So it is what it is. But as far as it goes with getting water quality, 20 years, we haven't cleaned any sumps around here. Since I've been here, we started a sump program, as Ed Smyth says. It's not very cool. It's not very, oh my God, let's go cut a ribbon. We cleaned a sump. We don't do that. We're here to do a job. We get there. We've done over 100+ sumps since I've been here. And that's cleaning them, getting them to drain properly. That's good for water quality. We also go out and we get out and we clean the catch basins in Huntington. We're on a program with that. Everything's on a program. It might not be as sophisticated as some people want to make it, but guess what? We get no complaints. Your town, we've had water problems in this town forever. We're lucky enough that right now, everything is draining properly now. We're almost up. Listen, there's over 600 sumps in Huntington. We're lucky enough, we've done probably 125. It's something new that was never done since Bill Norton was here. I put it back in order. As far as everything else goes, water is very important. It's a big thing. But you know what? If there's sand on the roads, there's salt on the roads, it's picked up right away. We try not to let it get into the drains before it rains and etc. But we're on a good mission here. We're doing great, and like I said, the people that work for us are unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our Superintendent of Highways candidates, Andre Sorrentino and Vincent E. Colavita. Thank you so much for spending your time, for hanging in. Don't leave yet. Hold on 1 second, Gail. There's a note that was passed to me. Please take a moment to collect palm cards and meet our local candidates on your way out. Thank you for coming. Gail, right next to you is the palm card table right there, right? So in closing, I just want to thank the students and the Half Hollow Hills PTA Council for hosting this wonderful event. I think we should give the students a huge round of applause for their awesome questions and contributions. Thank you so much. And thank you to our candidates. candidates for your time, dedication, and willingness to serve. Thank you to everyone in the audience for participating, for listening respectfully, and for showing that you care about the future of our town. On behalf of Half Hollow Hills PTA Council and our incredible volunteers, thank you all for being here and have a safe evening.